Hello, comic book readers, and welcome to another edition of the Elseworlds Exchange. I am Sal.
And I'm Joel.
We're going to be talking about some of the best, and maybe not so best, books that came out in 2023. A little retrospectives, if you will, talking about some of the books that came out in 2023 that we thought were worth talking about. You know, some books that really did their job as a comic book. You know, in a world of negativity and talking about how comics today suck. I think it's important to make a distinction and to go, not all comics, and there are actually some standouts, some books that
Hell
were
yeah.
really surprising. Were you surprised when you put your list together about how many books you had on your list?
Yeah, I kind of was, because I feel like this was a year, 2023, where I feel like I wasn't reading all the best books. I feel like I was reading, stuff for the channel and everything, and there's stuff like I keep hearing great things about that I never got a chance to read, and I'm like, oh man, I would have liked to have read that. Like, apparently She-Hulk from Rainbow Rowell is really good.
Yeah.
Moon Knight was really good. The new Hulk book from Philip Kennedy Johnson, who I'm singing his praises everywhere else. I read the first issue and then I just fell behind because this was also a year of nonstop back-to-back events with so many different tie-ins to where with Beast World right now, I just had to draw the line. I'm like, I'm not doing tie-ins. I'm not doing tie-ins now, because if I do, I will never get to read anything else now. And I feel like I missed out on some real bangers this year. But the list that I did put together, pretty eclectic, all things considered.
Yes, this was an eclectic year for books. I'm glad you brought up those titles because I know that they were good and they are worth mentioning, though they aren't on my list because they weren't like my favorites. You know, or I wasn't reading them, but I know how good they were. Like Moon Knight, for example. I know that Jed MacKay and essentially Cappuccio did a great job with like an ongoing series of Moon Knight, introducing, reintroducing, and a great new cast of characters, new villains and ideas for Moon Knight, and made Moon Knight like a really cool book. The problem I had with it,
because it would have to be.
Right. I didn't have the time. And I know that sounds ridiculous from a person who makes a living talking about and reading comic books, but like, you got to read the comic books. I got to like talk about, research, shoot, edit, plan. Like and then of course there's life. Like there's just too much going on.
There's only so many hours in the day.
Exactly. But thankfully I have an amazing wife who also does one of these shows with me, and she read Moon Knight and can attest to how good that was. Similarly, I can say I didn't make it on the list because I recognized how much I liked She-Hulk. I read the first series and then found that this is now a ongoing series with the same creative team, or at least a similar creative team, but Rainbow Rowell kind of at the helm, talking about Jen. This is what a She-Hulk book in today's world should look like. It's never going to be John Byrne again. And maybe it doesn't have to be / need to be. And that's okay, because it's not like they're not publishing the John Byrne stuff. That still exists. The Dan Slott book is still available in Omnibus. You could get that anywhere. Those were fantastic books, but also incredibly disparate from each other, but still maintaining the theme and the character. I think Rowell does a nice job of actually continuing Jen Walters as a character, more so than going... And I won't even put anybody under the bus. I'll just say there are some folks out there who are like, I like the idea of She-Hulk, except for everything about She-Hulk. I'm going to do a completely different book. And like I defended, there was a She-Hulk book where she was gray and angry, and I was like, I think this is a really well executed book. I think it's just a fantastic book. But
I like it too. That first volume was pretty strong. That was oh god, who was that? Their names escape me now. They're
I
Canadian.
think it was Tamaki.
Yes, it was Tamaki, yes.
Yeah, I loved the book. My problem was it changes Jen drastically, and then it fell apart.
It does. It kind of does. That first volume, like, wow, what a great exploration of survivor's guilt. Oh, I didn't like that ending.
No, I found that is a hallmark of, well, not a hallmark. I should say it's an albatross around the neck of Tamaki's runs for the most part, where it's like, that's a really good idea.
So sad.
Yeah, like that's a really great idea, or that's a really great execution, or I'm having a good time, and then the ending just completely fumbles.
And a lot of the time, it's not her fault. Arkham Tower
No.
is another perfect example where I'm like, oh, this is so clever and so
Yep.
fun. And we never get Batman stories like this anymore. Oh, this is so great. Oh, and then Batman came back at the very end, huh? Oh, and Scarecrow's here now, too. Oh, yeah, editorial took this away from you at the end, didn't it? That's a shame. That was a
Yeah.
book that went from like, oh, this is definitely going to be on my end of the year best of list to one bad ending being like, no.
Yeah, actually, it's just a book I read.
Yeah.
And that was the trouble I had with my list, was there were a bunch of books that I either didn't get a chance to read, or I meant to read or catch up about, but I just didn't have time. Like Danger Street. Danger Street was one of those books that I'm like,
Oh,
I know
yeah.
I know this is amazing. I don't have time, slash I don't like it month to month, so I'm just gonna leave it alone. I'm gonna put it away. I just put it on my pull list. I'll pick up every copy every week or every month, and then I'll read it all at once. And now that it's over, I will read it, and I'm going to be very sad and annoyed at myself for not putting it on the list. But
Yeah, I had a
it's one of
few of
those
those
books.
too.
The 6 issues of Green Lantern from Jeremy Adams, I just didn't read it. I heard it was great, and I was like,
Uh,
I don't. It escapes my field of vision every week, and I always forgot. Brave and the Bold, another one where I was like, oh, this is a good book. And then I just stopped reading it. And it was either just I didn't have time, or I just forgot, or it didn't catch me. I don't know.
two books my other co-host Matt absolutely is singing the praises of. Same with the other Green Lantern book that's out right now, a Return to Hal, a Return to Earth, and
Yes.
everything. That one kind of got kneecapped by Night Terrors, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, Night Terrors. Yeah, that's fair. Well, and the rise of the mini DC event, which of course is now in at the timing of this show, just beginning Beast War
Yeah,
or
Beast
Beast
World. I,
World.
I keep I keep wanting to call it Beast Wars 2. I've never had to do more edits in my videos. Nope, Joel, that was a show you liked growing up. That's not the
Yep.
name of the event.
Yep. You can't keep calling it Beast Wars, even though it would make more sense, and it would probably sell better because it would have war in the title.
They
But
might not own the rights to that though in comic book form.
that's true. That's true. That's very funny. I
Yeah.
should mention the show is sponsored by viewers like you. You're watching the show live. You can sponsor today's show, keep the riffraff out, and allow us to continue to speak without any filters on our microphones, so to speak, metaphorical ones, of course. As also, you can ask a question or comment. We'll read it here on the show, like these fine folk right now. We have Bryce Harriet says, hello, I can't say what's best in 2023 because I'm only reading 9 monthlies and have mostly been using my library to catch up on old recommends. That's fair. Listen,
You're still
I would
reading.
rather you use the library. I would use, Hoopla or any other number of like comic reading options that are both legal and also available and also either like cost effective or free than piracy. So that's fantastic. And listen, 9 monthly titles, that's not bad. That's like
Yeah, that's
what
still pretty good.
on average between $4 and $5. That's $45 a month. That's
Yeah.
more than an internet subscription for any number of streaming services.
Yeah, that's still a serious habit.
Yeah, Eduardo Perez Rubio. Hi guys, for me it's probably Danny Warren Johnson's TF. Oh, Transformers, Do a Powerbomb, Blue Beetle, Radiant Black, Arcade Kings, and Beneath the Trees Where No One Sees. There's probably more, but that's all off the top of my head. Fair. There's a lot
Some
of
great
good stuff
indie
in there.
offerings.
Oh, absolutely. And you will notice that my list is conspicuously absent of indies, and it's because we have a weekly show. We have a weekly show on this channel, at least, where we talk about books on a regular basis. My indie expert Tiffany will be, of course, supplying that list when we do our next show to talk more in depth about that kind of world. But yeah, I heard a lot of great things about Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. I know that a lot of people love that book, and I will say that I did read it, at least the first issue, and I didn't not like it, but I wasn't blown away. So I just kind of
also, is Do a Powerbomb an ongoing, or was it like a special mini? Because I know people said, Joel, you love wrestling, you love Daniel Warren Johnson, you love. Is it still ongoing, or is it just a mini?
I thought it was I think it's a mini. I think Do a Powerbomb ended. Yeah, no, it was a mini. Yeah,
Okay, but it ended this year, so it's still 2023.
That's right. Yes, it did. It's actually funny because like there are quite a few books that I have on my list that started in 2022 that ended in 2023. Books that I'm like, these were spectacular, like fantastic books that unfortunately didn't debut in this year, but did end this year.
That is the thing with comic books. You can fudge the numbers a little bit on that one. Perfect example before we started. I had Bad the Night on my list from Chip Zdarsky. Yeah, that ended in October 2022. So I missed the cutoff by at least a whole month.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The Night. I remember you were singing its praise, and you were also like making sure that it was going to be
Mhm.
on the list. And I'm like, yeah, The Night. We're gonna have to leave that out because it was a 2022
Yeah,
book. It was.
mother.
We also have. Let's see here. Cat Lawyer Will Defend for Treats. A great year to be a Superman fan. Can't argue with that at all. Also loved
It
Incredible
really
Hulk and
was.
X-Men. Do a Powerbomb is my top pick. Great art and story with a lot of heart. Agreed. It was, and it was another book where I was like, I like this. I'm gonna wait until it's over, and I did, and I was all the better for it. I was very rewarded for getting a chance to read it. It was just for my own like reading habits. Zebram, Josh Williamson's Superman is my favorite of the year. The best it's been since Tomasi and Gleason. I think
It's been
that is
really
a
good.
fair. Yeah, I think it's a fair assessment. It's on my list. And I know a lot of people love action.
I
I
do
left it
too.
off my list. I didn't read it, but I know you had it on your list. So I was happy to let you take over that one. So you want to share some of the books on your list for some of the best?
Sure, yeah. So I guess I'll start off with a hidden gem. This was in my honorable mentions, but it got moved up because the night had to get moved out.
Naturally.
Uh, this year, Gail Simone did a multiversal Jessica Jones story with Phil Noto art. It was called The Variants. It came out early in the year, and I feel like nobody is remembering this one, which is a shame because it is a solid continuation of Jess's story that actually builds on the two other miniseries that she got before this. If you love Everything Everywhere All at Once, you will love this book because it is very thematically the same. An older professional woman looking back at her life, looking back at the roads not taken, and it's a multiversal story that ends up having a very warm humanist message, and that is that in the infinite universe filled with infinite possibilities, maybe you've always been the best version of you. You just didn't know it.
I love it. I don't even remember it
No
at
one remembers
all.
it. I had to go through my channel. I'm like, this came out this year. Okay.
Yeah. By the way, it's a 5-issue miniseries, folks. You can pick it up now. It
Sure.
did actually end in December, but I'll allow it because nobody heard of it.
Fair enough. Okay. Gem. It's still close enough. When I went through my channel there, it still didn't say 1 year ago, so it counts.
I have been wronged by YouTube's generous chronicling of time as well, where it's like, oh, this video is only 6 years old. Then I look back, it's 8 years old, and I'm like, what math are you using?
If you twist my arm and it has to be something from this year, let's just say Daredevil. We saw the end of Chip Zdarsky's run. I liked it more than you in the beginning of the Solved in a mid run,
Yes.
which, man, to that book's credit, keeping the audience happy and keeping them hooked. I think there was a lot of people who thought about checking out, but they didn't. The Adventures of Father Matt is really, exciting people. And it's one of those like no-brainer ideas where it's like, yeah, why didn't they make Matt Murdock a priest?
Yes, Matt Murdock, The Exorcist, is a genius concept, and it's an
Mhm.
idea that I when I heard it out loud, I'm like, what a great idea. When I read it, I was not thrilled, but I am always, it's for me the standout in terms of art because the art really doesn't jive with me. I appreciate what they're
It's
doing, but
inconsistent.
it's inconsistent and it doesn't necessarily fit the tone that I'm going for.
No, it's no Chichetto.
No, 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 no. But I do love, and I know this is telling tales. Like people don't really necessarily agree with me on this one, but I love the John Romita Jr. covers. This for me
Mhm.
feels like a kind of like homecoming for the Romitas because, of
Yeah.
course, John Romita Sr. Working on Daredevil, and then of course went over to Spider Man. John Romita
Mhm.
Jr. Also drew a lot of seminal Daredevil work, including, of course, the Frank Miller series that came out from the 90s, and then these covers are just like just really really spectacular John Romita
Indeed.
Jr. fare. I'm thrilled with it,
Big
but
agree.
yeah, not thrilled with the book necessarily, but I do love those covers.
The book
Hulkzilla
is
says,
going in interesting places, and I think they have plans for the future. It's like, oh, all of Daredevil's closest friends and allies are being possessed by basically seven deadly sins demons. Oh, who could be next on there? Definitely Foggy, maybe Cole North, maybe Kingpin, maybe even Spider-Man.
yeah, I sure hope so, because then at least something interesting will happen to Spider-Man this year. Uh,
Oh,
Hulkzilla says, gonna watch after work. Have a great weekend. You too, Hulkzilla. Thanks for being here.
thank you.
Mr. Ketch, just want to say thanks to all of you. Looking forward to more Comic Pop in 2024. Thank you, Mr.
Oh,
Ketch. Looking forward to more of your drag racing of Hell Cycles. And thank you so much for your generosity. Behind the Page says, my favorite of 2023 has to be Ryan North's Fantastic Fantastic Four, but I'm also
Mm.
loving Immortal, Thor, Transformers, Green Lantern, War Journal, Superman, and more. I'm glad to
Mhm.
hear that there's so many books on that list for you behind the
Indeed.
page. But yeah, have you read much of Ryan North's Fantastic Four? Because I did read some of it. I recognized that it is good stuff, but it was easy to drop for some reason. I don't know why.
I bought the first issue with plans to read it, and it kept getting lower and lower on the pile till eventually I'm like, oh no, I missed it for another year. But yeah, some people are really into it and really liking it, and I think it's super cool that people are really into a Fantastic Four book. And also, hey, Ryan North is Canadian, so good on him.
Yeah, it's fair. Yeah, I did not. I just didn't connect as well as I wanted to. Tevia says worst for me was the Adventures of John Kent Superman, mostly because it proves my point that I was right about DC being de-aging John Kent. Yes, 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 of course. Ricky Rowles, my favorite comic was Moon Knight and Radiant Black. I know a lot of Radiant Black boosters out there.
Yeah, right.
I rarely ever read any Radiant Black, and if I do, it's mostly because it's been recommended to me by the audience.
Mm.
Joel, how about you? Are you a Radiant Black fan?
So I actually got sent two copies of the first issue, one by Higgins himself and one by Image. Loved it to death. Loved that first issue. I'm like, wow, this really is speaking to, my personality, a character who, has to move back home and give up his art and everything and ends up becoming a superhero. And I'm like, holy shit, this was designed to pierce my armor and people like me. Boy, I wish I could have kept up with this. I'm sure I would have loved it as much as everyone else. And it's only getting bigger. It's almost basically one of like Image's big flagships right now. It's getting events and it's getting animated things. I think, the sky is the limit for Radiant Black. And boy, I should really sit down and read more of it.
That's fair. Yeah, the current situation with Radiant Black, of course, being that like it's fractioning off, and you're gonna have like two alternate realities, and will converge at the end, and result in whatever the like consensus is, not too dissimilar from the like Jason Todd Robin
Yeah.
decision.
Yeah,
It's
there was a
a
vote
really
and
really good
everything.
idea. I know, a great idea. Loved the concept. Of course, it's near and dear to my heart, but also
Mhm.
innovative and like puts its money where its mouth is. This is the kind of thing you see like readers say, I wish they would do XYZ. You hear
Yeah.
creators, you never hear the publishers because the publishers never actually share their opinions, but your creators explain through Inside Baseball all the time, like, yeah, that's just not economically feasible. Like, we can't take risks, we can't try new things.
Yeah.
And then you have Kyle Higgins being like, yeah, no, I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is. I'm gonna try it. I think that sounds
And, and,
cool.
and good for Higgins too, because he's a guy who we've seen, come up during our time covering comics on the internet and everything. Him kind of slaving away, him kind of getting screwed over by different companies and everything. Maybe
Hmm.
not getting the credit he deserved for his hard work, but here is something that's is totally his.
That's true. That's true. He owns it lock, stock, and barrel, and he
Hmm.
can. Yeah, that's great. Cat Lover with Fun for Treats. Love these episodes. Shout out to Spider-Man India. Not groundbreaking, but a fun Spider-Man comic. First time in 20 years his history was told by an Indian creative team. The original
Nice.
was part of my childhood. Yeah, no, I remember the debut of Spider-Man India, and I remember reading it and being like, "That's kind of fun. What a good idea." But I'm really glad that, like, given um, the proliferation of Indian culture
Hmm.
in here America, particularly in my neck of the woods. I'm glad to see that Spider-Man India is kind of like reclaimed by
Definitely.
the culture from which he is meant to show deference, and
Oh yeah.
that he's being a more of a representative character. That's great.
Also, too, man, Cat Lawyer really, stumbles on something quite profound. This was an excellent year for Spider-Man stories for everything except for the main Amazing book. Every other Spider-Man book was interesting and eclectic and out there. You had Doc Ock, you had Miles, you had Spider-Boy. You had a bunch of other stuff going on and a lot of
100%.
cool stuff happening, except if your name was Peter.
Right. Yes. Yes. After the the takeover for Zeb Wells, unfortunately, Peter kind of like took a sidestep. I'm not sure what the motivation is there, but we'll talk. I think we can talk more in depth about Peter when we get to the
Oh
not so
yes.
greats, because I think we're both on the same page about that.
Oh
One of the
yes.
things that I wanted to say was good. One of my favorite things that came out actually about almost a year ago today was the debut of the next arc after Failsafe with for Batman. I just really liked the concept of like the multiversal story of Batman, like
Me
being
too.
in a Batmanless Gotham. You know, what a
Yeah.
neat idea.
I'm glad we can both admit this because I feel like a lot of people had multiversal fatigue and a lot of people checked out on this story and missed out on
Yes.
something really cool. Not just a cool multiversal Batman story, but also Zdarsky saying something culturally. I loved the fucked up dystopian Gotham in this, where it's like, oh yeah, it's all just an extension of the asylum. People are literally being driven crazy by fear gas that is
Yeah.
being pumped in the city. And the only way you can relieve that is by buying medication from the ultra rich and powerful who live in a literal ivory tower. So the world
Right.
beats you down, drives you crazy, but only if you can pay to keep your sanity. I'm like, holy fuck, that is wow. That is some cultural ass commentary, is what that is.
It's true. It also is addressing something I think fundamental about like Batman and Bat fandom and the current state of the Batman character slash like the like month to month in continuity Batman stories, which is like we've strayed a lot from the beaten path. We've you know, it may cosmetically look similar to what you're used to, but
Mhm.
you know, when we go to a Batmanless world, we see like Batman kind of like put in those key players. Like we have the kind of ghostly Commissioner Gordon guiding him. I wish that
Yeah.
convention had stuck around a little longer. I was a little
Yeah, it
disappointed
was
to see it
fun.
kind of like wrap up. You see the Alfred influence as well, the Catwoman thing. You see like an uncomplicated Batman is what I'm saying and what I'm driving at. Like the internet was very quick to dismiss it and to argue about it. And I know
Yes,
that
they were.
particularly in places where comics are not bought, is the internet, because the book continues to sell very well, and there's actually
Indeed.
quite a few books that sell very well despite like a very vocal, you know, contingent online that disagrees,
Mhm.
dissent, I want to say. But you know, for the most part, and this is like this. It's funny. This Batman and Zebwell's Spider-Man are both emblematic of a reality that the audience at large, the audience that posts on Twitter, the audience that posts out of context pages on Reddit, the audience that
Oh,
watches
yes.
YouTubers, that says there is a larger audience that just simply doesn't pay attention to any of the stuff that you hold to be a like kind of representation of the
Mhm.
audience. And it's like it's
Yep, they
just
don't engage, yeah.
they don't engage, they don't care. They go to the comic book store, they buy the book, they may hear something from their comic book retailer. It's, I think, why there's any kind of like pushback in the retail front regarding some controversies about like how retailers behave and how they commentate on books, because
Mhm.
word of mouth slash the pusher of comics is pretty much the only way that a regular uninterested in the conversation reader, which does represent the majority, will be influenced. And so it's like
Indeed.
that's where you get them. But yeah, this Batman book, my only problem, and the reason why it's not very high, it's not like this is the best run for years, is because it switches to different art throughout. The
Yeah,
multiversal
yeah.
Batman story, for example, was a phenomenal story
Sure
that was
was.
only hindered by the art. The art really
Yeah.
did do a disservice to the book, and so you had people talking out loud about like, because Batman, of course, he ends up in a place where there's no Batman. He has to make a suit all by himself out of garbage. A Batman making a suit out of garbage is also a plot line from some people's most beloved Batman story of all time, Batman Rips. So like I understand
Indeed.
that like that's a thing that you guys are totally okay with, but if it looks like garbage, Batman wearing garbage is only going to be more compounded. And
It's a bit of
so
a
yeah,
shame. That
bit of a
that
shame.
story too also featured some of the best Tim Drake stuff in the backups that we've
Them
ever
backup.
had.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Chip helming the backups lends a level of credence and like support that backups
Mhm,
rarely get,
mhm.
because of course, like I don't know about you,
Oh,
Joel,
yes.
but I know that when I get a book and I see a backup, I instinctively, almost reflexively close the book,
I hate to admit that's true, but it's true.
right? But knowing that Chip was writing them means that there is a degree of canon in those backups. And then you
And he
read them
paid
and
them
you're like,
off.
Well, exactly. So you're like, oh, okay, like I'm in. Like I'm going to read this, and I'm always rewarded. Particularly the Batman of Zur-En-Arrh versus Joker backup. That story arc
Very,
was incredible. And I have
very.
more praise for other backups in books that I don't necessarily love, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But I should also say that while you're watching, folks, stay tuned next week for a bonus episode of Elseworlds with myself and Chip Zdarsky, where we literally talk about
Ooh,
those backups. Matt
ooh,
Fisher
nice.
says, hello! Said in the Mrs. Doubtfire voice. Thank you for all that you guys do every week or day. Best books this year for DC or GL, Superman, Shazam, and Batman, Superman World's Finest. You are not alone in your love of these books, especially for people on this channel. I should point out that Daredevil, you mentioned Daredevil and where it went.
Did.
And I agree.
Yes.
But before it went there, Chip finished his Daredevil run.
Yes, he did.
And
I like the ending a little more than you.
Yes, you did like the ending a little more than me, but I also really appreciated a full, robust, complete run of Daredevil. And I there are things I wish had happened. I wish that the Punisher thing, as represented by this cover, was a little more fleshed out or more relevant.
Seemed like it was going to be bigger. It felt like it was going to be an event, and then it wasn't an event. And on one hand, I'm like, that's probably good that it wasn't an event. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, you could have told a pretty fucking cool event, probably.
Yeah, if the whole thing was culminating there, and I don't think it was. I think that Aaron was irrespective of Chip doing something with Frank, and then they both worked out something where they could reference each other but not go too far. In the Punisher book, he's just not even wearing the same costume.
No,
there's just no consistency.
That's a whole thing. Also, who's really in control of the hand? Is it the High Priestess, or is it or is it Elektra's old handler?
Yeah, they couldn't be bothered. There's another book that was incredible that continued. It wasn't even like it was really it was a book that debuted in 2023, but it certainly continued and told some great stories. The one that stands out for me is in X-Men number 18. Duggan took the reins from Hickman and created his own run of X-Men during a status quo. And the story of Sync and Laura, the future Vault Laura, is
Talon, as she is now known.
Talon, thank you. It's so compelling.
It really
so
is
well
one
executed.
Of the strongest things.
Right? And it also explores that that fundamental concept that they teased in the beginning of the Krakoa era about what happens when you have a duplicate. And so it's just X-Men continued to be great. That represents, for me, it's
it really
X-Men, at least the solo title, continued to be a major book. And
it did. There was a lot of good X-Men. That was a really good one. Duggan in general is one of those creators who I don't think ever gets his flowers for just putting in the fucking work, and not just 100%. Putting in the work and work across several. His Iron Man was great this year too, because that was Tony Stark marrying Emma Frost, a marriage of convenience, trying to help Orchis and fight Fei Long. Fei Long becomes a great villain in that book, to where he debuted and the other stuff, hey, he's another evil industrious. Oh, he's so good in Iron Man, and he's such a great foil for Tony. Again, another book I am so sad I didn't get to keep reading. His return to Uncanny Avengers. That first issue was great, and yet it just got buried under all this other stuff I had.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring up Uncanny Avengers because that was, for me, a little bit of a... I blindly trusted Duggan because of how well he executed the X-Men universe in this world. Uncanny Avengers is a little bit of a is a bit of a dip. I liked the first issue. The art is deceptive in its flashiness. You think this is really good, and then the more you look at it, the more it kind of falls way to the blemishes and the mistakes, or at the very least the inconsistencies. Overall, Uncanny Avengers also was a very easy book to drop, as it felt the least relevant and proved itself by being dropped and unmissed.
I do plan to go back and finish it because I did love his original Uncanny Avengers run. And this kind of feels like him using his pull in the X-Men office now. Okay, we're going to right some wrongs here and now. Okay, Deadpool got really screwed over, didn't he? When I was writing the greatest Deadpool run of the modern era because of Secret Empire. I don't think they've actually revealed who Evil Captain Krakoa is.
No, they did.
But
they did.
Oh, they did? They did actually reveal it? Ah, damn it. Okay, I got to go back.
I don't want to spoil it for you, so I'll just say they did.
They did the thing.
They did the thing. They did. There's another book that also did not debut in 2023, but other seminal numbering in its run also was fantastic and continued its consistency. Though the artist, the main artist, one of the celebrated creative forces on that book, the reason why the book I think is on so many lists was not able to be there for the majority of its run in 2023 is, of course, Nightwing.
Yeah.
Uh,
Nightwing from Taylor again was
yeah,
strong last year, continues to be strong and consistent this year.
That's right. Redondo still stuck around for the covers and occasional work, but losing Redondo was sad. But the work that they brought in, the artists they brought in, it was. I almost wish that they had been so different from Redondo, but they managed to keep
Mm,
a consistent tone.
yeah,
Though I know there are artists out there who are like, don't compare me to other artists. Like, I don't want to be considered to be like I'm this, but like that. Like I agree with them because they're creative forces who want to have their own distinct style and they want to be recognized for it. In this
indeed.
case, I think that it was a deliberate and designed attempt by DC to like trick the reader into basically thinking the book hasn't changed and no one's like there is nothing but consistency here. Um,
Indeed. That narratively, the book did a lot of heavy lifting this year, setting up the new Titans book. We got a whole
yes,
story with the tower and everything. We get a whole side adventure with the Titans. I would put the Titans book in there too, because Taylor's writing that, and they were basically one book this year, is
yeah,
what they
yeah,
were. The book also had Heartless in it, which again I will hold up there as one of the only other new modern villains worth a damn. They did a
that's
great
fair.
job with the mystery, great job with the reveal, and he continues to be a malevolent force in that book even now. Where I'm like, I like that. He doesn't defeat him right away. He slinks back into the shadows to be a danger another day.
And isn't it funny how, like, when you do that, like, they did that in another run, Nick Spencer Spider-Man, where Kindred showed up, was scary and
Mm-hmm.
formidable, and then slunk away. And yet, for Nightwing fans, the Heartless is a fun, occasional
Mm-hmm.
villain that is looming ever present in the background. Yet,
Dark
when
mirror
it
to
came to
Dick.
Kindred, yeah, yet when it came to Kindred, people just lost complete patience for that development. And I want to
Well,
say it was because there was nothing else that was interesting that was going on during that run.
it also helps too that like there's not like a ton of mystery around Heart. It's like, yeah, I'm a bad guy. I'm stealing hearts. I'm doing bad things. I hate Dick Grayson. I'm not trying
Right,
to
but
break him.
why?
I'm not trying to change the universe and everything. I steal
No.
hearts because I'm an asshole and I want them to power myself so I can continue to live and do evil. And I'm like, it's a good
Mhm.
villainous motivation.
I mean, that's fair. Yeah, yeah. No, Nightwing also manages to continuously teach you, and it's the antithesis of a Spider-Man book, that you can have your hero be successful
Yeah, and
and
well
that
adjusted
they're right, and they're well adjusted. Like their
with a healthy
life is
romance.
is healthy and yeah, and we're just and it won't lead to the quitting of the book. Like because I think a lot of publishers, particularly big two publishers of superhero books, are worried
Hmm.
that if you set up like a jumping off point for your reader, they will take it
People will
10
take it.
times out of 10. Like if you give them a chance to like believe that the story is over, they'll leave. And I think there is data to support that, but I also believe that like as long as they have a disposable income and they are rewarded for being a fan, if you give
Hmm.
your hero or your protagonist a consistently like compelling yet successful run, people will keep reading.
Oh yeah. Taylor also did the impossible too in this last arc. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna take some of this Rick Grayson stuff and I'm gonna actually recycle it and do something good and interesting with it. And I'm like, you madman, you absolute madman. There's no way this will work, and it kind of works.
No, it does. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, good on
So
him.
yeah, in addition, I should say because I genuinely believe this, and I know that like I seem like a dick rider for this author, but it's worth repeating because like the book did end in 2023. Human Target was a perfect comic
Mm,
book.
really?
Tom King, Greg Smallwood. The art alone is worth the price of admission, but Human Target was as good as it can get when it comes to this type of book. I don't want to see this as a format that should be applied to every book. It is for what it was attempting to do, it succeeded in every respect in terms of tone, theme, character, story, and genre. They nailed it.
I've been burned though, Sal. I've been burned before by the king. Will this cure my heart? Will this make me whole again?
Probably. I mean, if
All right.
not, I have another perfect comic book by Tom King that also ended this year that needs to be purchased by everyone. And I know there's only everybody that I've recommended this book to has thanked me, though I should say there was one person who was like, "I didn't like it, Sal. Why did you recommend this to me?" I can't help you. But Gotham City Year One ended in
Okay,
2023.
this does seem up my alley. I do love old-timey noir detective stories. I love the idea of like a Limburg baby in Gotham. I love the idea that they dusted off Slam Bradley. So, okay, you know what? Maybe I will take you up on this one, Sal.
This is 100% worth your money. This is a book that needs to be read by you. And by you, I mean if you think that noir is cool, if you think that
I
mysteries
do.
are cool, if you like
I
detective
do.
stories, if you like Phil Hester, it's some of Phil
Yee,
Hester's
yee,
finest work.
yee, yee.
It is everything, and it's also everything that Tom King does best. If you only like Tom King in certain things, this is the one you'll like.
Okay.
So yeah, worth buying. It isn't a out and out 2023 book, but I chose to show you issue 4. I believe it was a 6-issue series. Issue 4 is when 2023 began. So there you go. Like,
Well,
at least
Christmas is coming. Maybe that needs to be my gift to myself then. That'll be my holiday reading.
I'm sure you can get it at a discount because the
I'm
book did
sure I
not
can.
sell.
Oh, that's
Yeah, but I also, and similarly, just because I've read the first issue and I literally didn't read any more. But Jorge Fornes and Tom King's Danger Street, if only for this cover.
nice.
But the cover game on Danger Street is such that, like, I've not been reading Danger Street, but the covers have been so consistently out there and
That's pretty
good.
dope.
They are it is something to pay attention to. But I'm looking forward to actually knowing what I'm talking about when it comes to Danger Street.
Also, hey, something coming from Black Label that's not a Batman book, which,
Yes,
deserves all the credit in the world for that.
of course. Yes. There's actually a few Black Label books that came out this year that might come out in another 2 years. That would be, of course, Superman: The Last Days of Lex Luthor from Mark Waid and Brian Hitch.
Oh, yeah, that was this year. I know my co-host Matt raved about this.
Yeah, this book just absolutely should not have come out this year. It should have come out in 2024, and then maybe they would have had more time to make more of this book. But this is a great book. It's really fun, and it's on the shelves. Like, you could go get it, especially, and you'll have plenty of time to read it. You could take it. You could read it month to month, 1 page a month, and maybe you might catch up to issue 2.
Right on.
But great book, and it'll be the best issue of Last Days of Lex Luthor in 2023 because there will not be any more
Well, there
for
you
a very
go.
long time.
That was another
Also,
issue too when I was putting together my list. I'm like, there was like 3 or 4 issues of this year. Is that enough to be considered one of the best of the year when you've only had so many issues? I'm like, well, it really shouldn't matter because it's sequential art and everything. And if it's good, it's good. If it moves you, then it should make it on the list.
yes. Well, and especially because, and I don't know about you, and I want to know your opinion on this one because I felt this when I was putting together this list. When you mentioned eclectic, you have a very eclectic list, and I find I do too. And the books that I'm championing were books that I was championing a year ago. Like the books where I was like, this is a perfect comic book. 2 books. They debuted in 2022. I have the hardcovers of them now already.
Nice.
I feel like this year, good books came out.
Yes.
And I feel like every year, something really special comes out. And if we're lucky, 3 or 4 really special somethings come out.
Yeah.
But I feel like this year was a little bit drier than previous years. I guarantee 2024 will have some incredibly good stuff, but I feel like it also might have contributed to a little bit of more online vitriol when people were like quick to say the comics are dying, the comics are in trouble, that comics aren't as good as they used to be. I feel like because there was nothing, it was consistent. The DC line was consistent. The Marvel the Marvel output is consistent. Spider-Man consistently shitty. So like you have but consistency breeds complacency. And you
Yes,
need
it
to
is.
you need to set a couple of fires. And I feel like 2023 just didn't set as many fires
It,
as the
it was
industry did.
it was a very safe year. There was there was very
Safe.
little like, oh, like this was magical. There was no Beta Ray Bill. There was no other history of the DC universe. There was another like, oh, you gotta be type as hell. This is what blew me away when I did this. There were 3 White Knight books this year. There was Beyond the White Knight, the Red Hood White Knight, and Generation Joker, and I didn't put any of them on here, even though all the other White Knight books made it to my list every year, where I'm like, well, these are good. But, they feel less special now because now we're getting 3 a year. And now it just feels like, it feels like a whole universe unto itself where it's like, be sure to come back for the next one, everyone. Where the Harley one and the 2 White Knights before that, where it's like, oh, these are so great because they're also self-contained with beginnings, middles, and ends.
Yeah.
Now they don't have ends anymore.
Yeah. No, it's true. Man, yeah, the White Knight books were unfortunately a very easy book for me to stop reading.
I read all of them up until like the 2nd issue of Generation Joker, where I'm like, okay, maybe I'll come back to this one when this is done. This is fine, but it's just I've lost that love and feeling, as they say.
Yeah, that's very true. I will say a couple of other there was a great initiative that I don't necessarily love the approach, but I think it worked. Like DC had this idea, and it was exploitative in nature, but it resulted in good books, and that's very interesting to me. And that was the One Bad Day book.
Yeah,
we got a couple
again,
more One
mixed
Bad
bag.
Day books. Yeah, and mixed bag.
Yes, we did.
Like we got a couple of really cool
some
stuff.
were like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah,
loved the Bane one, loved the Penguin one.
Yes, I see. Now that's what's interesting is that, like, I love that we didn't have the same opinion. Bane, I enjoyed Bane. I thought that One Bad Day Bane was interesting and fun. I also love the behind the scenes where Joshua Williamson's like, the best Bane story is still Vengeance of Bane #1. The One Bad Day Bane issue is just Vengeance of Bane. Well, if you're gonna do it, I guess I'll do it, and I guess I'll tell it like this and make it something else. But also that Clayface one was really good. The Clayface issue of One Bad Day. Colin Kelly and Jackson Lanning with art by Zermanico.
Who had an amazing year.
Yeah, Zermanico did some good stuff, and it's totally worth picking up. If you haven't already checked out Clayface, it's totally worth reading.
Shit,
it's really
I
good.
Missed that Clayface one. Holy shit.
Very inside baseball for Hollywood. Like, this feels like
as it should be.
Like Kelly and Lansing felt like they were writing it from notes they took at like a douchey Hollywood party. But not all the One Bad Day books came out this year. There was one that, like, I didn't really care for the Penguin one. I liked it, but it didn't feel like it was embracing the format. The Penguin just felt like,
no.
Oh, Tamaki didn't finish writing her Batman stuff, so here's a Penguin story.
No, wait, that wasn't. Our Penguin wasn't Tamaki. The Penguin was 12 Years a Slave.
Oh, really? No.
Yes, it was.
Huh?
Yes, it was. That was him. God, why am I blanking on his name again? He had the Jace Fox Batman.
John
book.
Ridley.
Oh my God.
John Ridley.
Yeah, that was John Ridley.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah,
that was John Ridley. Yep.
Yeah, it was. I remember liking it, but also being like, this felt like an arc that they just condensed into one.
Yes, it was.
Like, shorter book, which I do appreciate. But it was like,
it's a Kingpin story. It's a Wilson Fisk story starring the Penguin, is what it is.
It 100% is. Yeah, it very much is. Yeah,
and I'm totally fine with that. I'm like, you know what? This is okay by me.
That's fair. It is good. It is good. There's another one that I also like that is another one of those, like, oh my God, you got to look at just looking at it is great. And that was, of course, the Ra's al Ghul one.
That was also a really good one.
Ivan Rice's art was like just firing on all cylinders, worth reading.
Pretty dope.
This is a good one. Yeah. The Catwoman one, I did not care for.
Oh yeah, from G. Will. I wanted to love that one. It had some interesting ideas in it, but kind of fell flat.
Yes, I was really looking forward to it because I was like, good, give Selena like a kind of almost Vertigo, Black Label 1980s, Bat book. I would love that, because she did have one in the 80s, Her Sister's Keeper, and it's really weird and creepy, and I don't really care for it. So let's do something else. Oh, this is not this is not what I was looking forward to.
I will give some credit to G. Will Wilson, though. Her Poison Ivy book keeps getting extended from a mini series to a full ongoing, and I kick myself every year I don't read that because I love Wilson, and I probably would love Poison Ivy.
I am also not reading her Poison Ivy book, but thankfully, despite us, people are reading this book, and it is selling.
Right, which means there must be something to it.
Oh yeah, there's two things to it. Number one, Poison Ivy. The book is enjoyed and read by the silent majority. The other is that the variant cover game is on effing point for this book.
Yeah, it is.
This book has an unprecedented number of sales for its variant cover game.
Oh, the covers rip.
Yeah. So that's great. There's a book that I feel like I want to mention it only because I was like, this is exactly what people are asking for when they complain, and then they don't read it. And it was Murder World.
Oh yeah, Murder World was dope.
Jim Zub and Ray Fawkes. This book.
Hell yeah.
And I know exactly why this book, if it didn't sell, here's the thing. I don't know the numbers, but I can guarantee it didn't sell. And that's because the marketing on it sucked ass.
Yes, it did. No one knew it was coming out, and that's a real shame, because if they did and they knew what it was about, I think people really would have enjoyed it more.
Right? And what's the first issue?
I have
there is no
Spider-Man?
issue 2. Yes, it is. It's Murder World Spider-Man. But
okay, I thought so.
Murder World's reading order needed to be expressed through a numerical system. The last issue of Murder World is called Murder World Game Over #1.
Yeah, no one knew what it was because it was all just like, oh, an X-Men Murder World, a Spider-Man, an Avengers Murder World. And it's like, oh, is this part of an event? Do these all tie together? Yes, they do. It's issue 1, 2, 3, but you wouldn't know that.
Yeah, no. The reading order for Murder World, by the way, if folks are interested in reading Murder World, or first of all, just get the trade. But if you want to read it week to week, if you want to go into the back issues and just get it for cheap, it's Murder World Avengers #1, Murder World Spider-Man #1, Murder World Wolverine #1, Murder World Moon Knight #1, and then Murder World Game Over #1.
Yes.
5 #1s, none of which have the same title.
Yes.
But it was fun.
And people wonder why comics are hard to follow.
I know. This, by the way, it stars nobody.
Yes, which is brilliant. And they fake you out, too. The first issue is about some, friggin' internet content creator dickhead, where I'm like, oh my god, Jim Zub, stop speaking to my soul in this for a second. Please stop plumbing my depths here with this fucking character.
No, it's great. So if you are interested in Murder World, that's the reading order, but you could also just literally go get the trade called Murder World.
You should.
2023.
It's really good. Wonderful take on Arcade, which is funny because Arcade, big X-Men villain, not really active in the current ongoing X-Men stories, and yet he got this whole thing to himself this year.
Well, and that's the thing. I remember talking to Zub about it, and Jim Zub's approach was when it comes to supervillains, every time we see them, they're fighting the hero, and so as a result, they have to lose. So how do we establish that these villains are in any way effective? How do we know Arcade is formidable if every time that he ever tries to make a Murder World and fight the X-Men, he gets pantsed? Here's how. And they show you an on day for Arcade.
Brilliant.
By the way, Do a Powerbomb launched in 2022, but it did end in 2023. So and by the way, Do a Powerbomb was a delightful and beautiful series. It was a book where I read the first issue and was like, this is going to be special. I'm going to have to stay away from this and read it when it's all done because I was
going to say, and you don't even particularly like wrestling. So that's saying
I don't like wrestling. No.
That it was able to get past your armor and your cynicism.
Well, D-Dubs told me, he was like, you will like this book. And you don't need to love wrestling to enjoy it. And I think that's half true. I think that if you do love wrestling, this is a religious experience for you.
Well, all right then.
And for me, I think right. And I'm like, I thought it was very good. I liked it not as much as Dead Earth, but I liked it a lot.
And Daniel Warren Johnson knows his shit about wrestling too, because literally in every other comic, he's doing Rainmaker elbows, he's doing Snapdragon suplexes, he knows all the moves, he's getting them in there. I
mean, his logo for himself is essentially like a wrestling title belt. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, he is all about that. Similarly, of course, I think it's worth mentioning Transformers because
Yes.
I've talked about this book before. It
They
feels
sent me
very
the
much
first issue.
yeah, that's awesome. I had to buy the first issue, those bastards, but this is a gorgeous looking book and
Hmm.
a genuine approach to reinterpreting the animated series from the 80s. Like it is
And an
very much
excellent
like a
jumping on point.
oh yeah, big time. Yeah, yeah. No, you don't need to know anything about that world to get acclimated. And I think it's a great
Hmm.
entry point for people who are curious about Transformers, but never, but we're always, intimidated by the IDW like series and its breadth,
I know I
with a
was.
D. Yeah, I know. I always am. People are like, you got to do the IDW series. I'm like, I got to read all of that. Um,
I especially appreciate the issue too for like pointing to the stands and calling out its major themes in the first issue. Hey, here's Spike. He's having problems with his dad, but he met Optimus. Optimus lost a surrogate son and everything. They're coming together because Optimus was basically the dad for a whole generation. There you go. Bada bing, bada boom. That's the
yep,
series.
yep. Issue 2 or 3 is when like Optimus Prime gets like the call to action. Like this is what this world is, and this is why it's so beautiful and precious. And I need to protect it because I could break it. Like it's
Hmm.
great, worth reading. And of course it looks great. My only problem is I'm like, I like D-Dubs only really wants to do self-made stuff. Like he wants to do
Right.
creator-owned stuff. And
Which
with the
who can blame
success,
him?
an Eisner winning award, like the award winning to a powerbomb, it's testament to his desire.
He's got the
He also
gold to prove it.
that's right. He also did that amazing black, white, and red book with Star Wars, where he did like a story arc about like an X-wing pilot, and it was amazing. Just getting killed by Darth Vader. But I understand that, and I feel like that is going to weigh on him as this series progresses. I don't want to fall in love with Transformers because I fear that by issue 8 he won't be on it anymore.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
That's my concern. I have no inside info about that. I'm concerned it won't. It will end, and then and the Energon universe will continue, and he
Mm.
won't be able to keep doing it because I'm not here
Yeah,
necessarily. I'm not here for the Energon universe. I'm here
yeah,
for
that's right. It's a
D-Dubs.
whole brand new imprint now, including Void Rivals from Robert Kirkman and the new
Yes.
G.I. Joe stuff that's coming out too. Yeah, I forgot it's a whole shared universe now with more multimedia implications because apparently the movies now are also going to be crossing over Transformers
Hmm.
and G.I. Joe, which they probably should have done from the get-go.
I wish they had like from the jump. It's very true. Are there any other what other books from your list do you have that you're like these are some greats from 2023?
Sure.
I feel like yeah, I was like I'm
Sure,
drawing
here,
from
I'll
my
go for one.
list. I should
Here's kind of a
yeah.
dark horse one.
Hmm?
Here's a dark horse one here. It's a mini series, Hot Girl by Jazita Axelrod here. Again, a book that kind of says, yo, we all love Hot Girl, right? Because we grew up with her in the cartoon and everything. Why doesn't she have more books? Why doesn't she have more stories? And why does the story she have always seem to be tied to Hawkman? And I'm like, yeah, Jazita, that's an excellent point. And this is a series that's basically all about identity, with Kendra being like, I'm on so many different teams. I have lived so many different lives. Who the hell am I? Where am I going in the universe? That's really
Yep.
awesome. This book also great villain too in Vulpiculia, very very Morrison-esque concept
Hmm.
for a villain. You know, she's this evil fox creature who makes Faustian bargains with little girls, you know, for like ponies and everything their hearts can desire. And then in the future comes to collect their souls basically and use them as batteries so that she can try and get to the nth metal realm and claim it
Huh.
for herself. This book also uses all the continuity around nth metal that Snyder and everyone else had invented, where it's like, yeah, nth is kind of energy unto itself. It just chooses to be a metal because it's basically alive and everything. I'm like, that's fucking cool. This whole thing is
Yeah.
very interesting. It's also kind of a sequel to her other book, Princess Galaxy. I can't remember what it's called. So those characters show up too. I didn't have much of a frame of reference for that, where I'm like, oh man, I probably
Fair.
should have read that book before I read this. But still, really cool. She's got a really interesting voice. I expect big things for Jazita Axelrod in the future because
Nice.
this was a really solid mini.
Yeah, I read the first issue and I was like, this is really cool, but it was also it
Yeah.
very much I don't remember if I just didn't see the next issue like soon enough or whatever, but I definitely fell off. I was like but I didn't dislike it.
it suffered from coming out in packed weeks is what it is. Again, I covered issue 1 on the channel. Like, I'm gonna come back and cover issue 2. And then it's like, oh crap, I read it, but I got so much other stuff coming out that people want. God
Yeah.
damn it. Why does this happen? Because I wanted to like broadcast the book because I'm like, this is good shit from an interesting creator.
Yeah, definitely. At the risk of upsetting random sensitive members of our audience, Punisher ended in 2023.
Yep. On my list
Jason
too.
Aaron, Jason Aaron, Jesus Saiz, Paul Azaceta. This book ended in a way that I think that if there weren't grifters online who monetize rage, people would have accepted and loved.
Indeed.
I was not thrilled. I liked the ending. It didn't go where I thought it was going.
Yes, it zigged when you think it's going to zag.
Yes, which I appreciate, but I am
Indeed.
also, but I don't know. Like I was like, there was a part of me that viscerally reacted to it zigging when I thought it was going to zag, and being like, "Damn it!" But also, good for you. But now, with the benefit of hindsight, I don't know if it's still better.
Yeah, I have that internal monologue too. I appreciate the finality of it, where it's like, this is the last punishment to Frank Castle. This is him being forced to answer for everything he has done in his life. No, he's not the good guy, everyone. He's never really been the good guy. That's something you have to deal with and something he himself has to deal with. But yeah, I love the finality of it, and we know it's going to get undone because it always gets undone. Frank will come back. It'll be a huge deal. But to Marvel's credit, they actually let this be final for a bit, and now they have this mini series from David Pepose that's just a totally different thing. And I'm like, good on you, Marvel, for actually letting this one lie for a bit.
Yes, and I think it's actually kind of brilliant because I think that Pepose's Punisher is so different, so radically different, but also feels very much like Punisher 2099, which I'm sure is by design because I know he likes that character. But
it's also funny too how it's like, that's not a skull even, and he doesn't even call himself the Punisher. The news calls him the Punisher. That's not a skull. Those are LED lights on his old shield suit. He's like, what do they keep calling me the Punisher?
Yeah, exactly. That's a skull, buddy. That looks exactly like a skull. I think you know it. But I love
I love that having its cake and eating it too. I'm like, oh, Pepose, you mad genius, you.
Exactly. But the fun part of it, like the design part of it, is that like it allows for the Punisher brand to continue.
Yes.
But also show its versatility.
Indeed.
And so that when and if Frank does come back, and really it's not if but when,
yes,
there won't be
whenever
like
he gets
long
a new
stretch.
show.
Yes, there won't be a huge stretch of time when there was no Punisher book. It's like there's a Punisher book, it has it is very much its own thing, and then there's another Punisher book and it was its own thing, and then there's another new Punisher book. And it's like this Punisher book, I in no way found the retcons for his history to be blasphemous or inconsistent with this character. No. I really loved it. I loved Maria up to a point, and the art was second to none. The two different reality, or the two different time periods, the present and the past, pitch perfect selections for those choices, and just I loved it. I was just like, I love this book from stem to stern.
Same here. Also, the things it does differently too. We never hear Frank's internal monologue during the entire thing, which is a crutch that so many Punisher writers do, because they're doing that hard-bitten neo-noir. It was a night like any other. The rain hit the streets. And, oh my God, fucking God, so angry. They don't do that once in this book, and that's brilliant, because it's also like, oh, is Frank a reliable narrator in this? Because we're not hearing him. We're hearing the High Priestess's internal monologue, but we're not here. Is one playing the other? What's going on? Again, a lot of really interesting stuff that people didn't give its due to, because they're like, oh my God, they're changing the Punisher and it's going to change forever, even though nothing ever stays in comics. But this is the thing that's going to change and be changed forever.
Yeah. Never mind the fact that like the Punisher logo was in every issue of the series.
Yes.
It was on the cover of every issue. And it was ever present in every issue of the book. But there's a book that I recognize for its significant, like, I think it's a great series, but I also recognize that I'm like maybe just too dumb. And that's Ram V's Detective Comics.
Yeah, I read the first issue of this, and the second they started talking about Barbados, I'm like, I'm done. I don't need to read all the Batman books. That's
See, the
fine.
thing is, for me, the Barbados stuff was like the most compelling. I was like, we're bringing back Barbados. We're doing something different with it. The covers are spectacular.
Yes, they are.
That's Evan Cagle doing the covers, I believe. They're so good and so consistently excellent, and set such a interesting tone that I think Ram V is going for. I'm like, yes. Ram V is also playing the slow game, and if he were on Batman, he'd be fired.
But in Detective Comics, you get away with more.
You could take the time, you could slowly build, you can just keep going with it. And while I myself am like, I was looking for something different or something similar, this does feel like a similar book. I swear, what's happening right now, Detective, makes me feel like a dumbass for not reading Detective. Like the return of Jean-Paul Valley Batman.
Oh, shit.
The legitimization of Selena Kyle as a true supporter of Batman.
Well, because Ram V wrote the Catwoman book before he wrote this.
Yeah, like the use of Selena Kyle, the depiction of Bruce Wayne, the backups by Simon Spurrier that are just Gordon stories are the hard-boiled Gordon stories by Cy Spurrier and the backups are worth buying the whole goddamn book regardless. Now, I don't believe they're in this most recent issue. Yeah, no. They need to collect those Cy Spurrier Gordon stories because they've
been doing it more. If they can collect those Penguin backups and make that a Penguin Zero, they can collect the Gordons.
Exactly. Those, like, Spurrier gets it. We had him on the show a couple of months ago, and I'm so sad that we didn't even get a chance to talk about it. I was like, I need to talk to him about these effing Gordon books, and then we didn't talk about it. But it was just like, those Gordon books are so good. And I think that when it's all collected, when you sit down and read it, like in Ram V's Detective Omnibus will be like the thing people love, like Tomasi's Batman and Robin.
Yes.
People will talk about Ram V's Detective the same way.
Well, that's good.
And I think that if Ram V has, I don't think he does, I think that he would resent the implication that he needs mentorship because he's an accomplished, consummate writer. I completely understand that. But I don't know if his laborious, long-winded approach to this series is a deliberate indulgence or if it is just what he's used to doing. But like, he could have a Snyder-esque ascension from detective to Batman if he can truncate some of that shit.
Interesting. I mean, that has kind of been the way it's gone because Tynion did the same thing too. Had a really goddamn good detective run and then got promoted to the big book.
That's exactly right. And that's like, really, Detective is essentially a proving ground for writing Batman, unless you're Chip Zdarsky.
Yeah. In which case you get to speak the line.
In which case, we'll just give him the job. Another book that I think was great 2 years ago when I read it, but oh yeah, that's right, it came out in March, was Scott Snyder and Francis Manipul's Clear.
Oh yeah, I meant to read that.
Out of all of the Scott-tober books, people love Night of the Ghoul, but this one was, I think, a great noir, hard-boiled, grizzled, Blade Runner-esque comic book.
Nice.
Totally worth picking up.
Nice.
What else you got?
Yeah, what else do I got going on here? Okay. So, hey, Birds of Prey by Kelly Thompson, but also with amazing art by Leonardo Romero. To where I'm like, wow, yeah, nothing looks like this on the shelf right now. Holy shit. It's, neoclassical artwork. Oh my God. They also, this book too, in writing terms, Sal, I don't want to be too forward with it, but I think this is the book that can fill the Secret Six hole in my heart, or at least it is. It's filling the Hellions. It's filling the Hellions hole in my heart. Where it's like, yeah, a bunch of like fucked up individuals on a team together, all bouncing off each other. Also, hey, great year for repairing the Arrow family. Ollie in his own book got to
Yes.
have, Leanne and everyone else back. And here, Birds of Prey, Black Canary's like, hey, I want in on that action too. I had an adopted daughter / sister from several retcons ago that no one remembers. I'm gonna go rescue her now and bring her back into the fold. Yeah, Cynthia, hell yeah. Someone remembers the character. Woo.
Right. I don't, because I'm not that kind of fan, but I can recognize that this book is something special that people need to be paying attention to.
They really do.
Has fantastic action, great character depiction, and very good art. It feels it with a Jordi Belair does the colors; they're great, but they do have this kind of like very off-kilter feel to them. Very like almost like spray painty, kind of like good stuff. But like, if you were to use a different colorist on Leonardo Romero's art, you could get like shades of Cliff Chung or like even Darwin Cook with this kind of book. The fact is,
I was gonna say, and the way they use the art in the storytelling too, there's a whole bit with Constantine where they're like, oh, we need to go to a magical realm. So they step into the white part of the comic, and that's how they get there. They step out of the panel, and I'm like, whoa, comics as like a storytelling form. Holy shit.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny. Like the first issue is like the colors are very misleading because you're like, oh yeah, like that's what that looks like. That's what the book looks like. The book looks more like the cover for issue 4, which is this,
much more.
Which is great. And by the way, like, this cover is no lie. Big Barda fights Wonder Woman in this book, and it's awesome. This is a great book. This is Kelly Thompson's best stuff, and I loved her Black Widow, another book that nobody fucking read. But yeah, Birds of Prey is great. Totally worth picking up. It's only 4 issues, folks, that are already out yet, so go pick them up.
It's so good when you read it. It's like, why isn't there always a Birds of Prey book on the shelf? Why isn't this one of the premier DC teams? That's how good it is.
Right? They need to keep like, it needs to be like a great pitch. It can't just be that. You know what I mean?
Also, hey, if you loved that Gotham Academy book, Maps Mizuguchi's in it too, everyone. So there you go. So pick it up for that.
Right? Come on. Kelly Thompson remembers. She loves these characters. Stupid Sandwich, thank you so much for your generosity. I posted this message to Sal yesterday, but why do you suppose DC seems to be gun-shy when it comes to bringing Batman's classic blue and gray Bronze Age costume into main continuity, but is happy to incorporate it into flashbacks? I don't know, but I will say, I think since Hush, Batman is gray and blue/black with no yellow disc. Like, that has been a very since Dark Knight Returns, people have preferred largely the year 1 black and gray, no yellow disc Batman. And it only was because of like Grant Morrison's influence that we got a yellow disc again. But even then, it was a tough sell to get the blue suit in there. But I think that with the rise of Dan Mora and the overwhelming love and support of Dan Mora and Mark Waid's Batman Superman World's Finest, I think now more than ever there's an opportunity for blue and gray yellow disc Batman. Certainly that's something I've always wanted to see again.
I think maybe it's a kowtowing to the movies and to the multimedia projects right now because he's wearing black and all of that. If when the next movie comes out, if he's wearing blue and gray in that, then yeah, maybe the wider continuity would adopt it.
Agreed. Speaking of which, by the way, World's Finest is living up to the title. This book has been a consistent banger every single time. It is everything you want from Batman and Superman. It is also very different from what you're used to because they are friends and they knew each other for like it's playing fast and loose with continuity, but it's Mark Waid, so you trust him to do it, and so it works.
Indeed.
He also, he's going to be precious with the characters, so every time that he goes someplace like really kind of like hairy, nefarious, or like off kilter, you can trust him to do it because he's going to do it with reverence and care.
I feel like such a I feel like such a dope because I read that book in the lead up to Lazarus Planet and then
Oh
got
no.
burnt out on it and didn't come back for the next arc. And now you and my other co-host Matt are both shaking. We're like, you gotta be reading World's Finest. You're missing out. Freaking Kingdom Come. Freaking Kingdom Come.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great. And those moments and reveals are just the top. It's so great to see Batman like being a human being. Um,
Nice.
Peach, thank you for your generosity and welcome to the show. My favorite comics were Batman and Superman, also World's Finest. Thank you for helping me be able to delve fully into comics this year. Been reading X-Men this year from beginning and just got to X-Men #1. Nice. Well,
Nice.
congratulations and welcome to the family, man. Thanks so much for trusting our opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Ozzy Albor, Dark Knights of Steel was my favorite for me. Really like the whole white Martian twist. Love you guys. Thank you very much, Ozzy. I dropped off of Dark Knights of Steel. It's very easy for me to drop off. One day, maybe I'll read it all.
I dropped off with one issue left, and I
Mhm.
can't believe I did that. I'm like, Joel, did you actually do that? It was just too packed. I just couldn't go back to it. And yeah, I like the White Martian twist too. I called it like really early on though. I'm like,
Oh,
Martians are
sure.
involved.
Right. Grayson Red Rogue Sun from Radiant Black Universe is my favorite book of the year for sure. Highly
Mm.
recommend. Well, thank you very much, Grayson. Comic Dog, Jim Zub, Conan. I'm glad you brought that up
Ooh,
because
yeah.
Zub's Conan is everything you liked. If you read or enjoyed Zub's Conan at Marvel, it is
Hmm.
as good, if not better than that. He is then through Titan Books able to do much more, you know, consistent and uh, you know, character oriented. Like he can really deliver the goods as opposed to
Oh yeah.
like I don't believe he was really hamstrung at Marvel, but you
No.
would believe it if you read his Conan book
It,
now.
his love and passion for the genre and the world and the characters is infectious and all encompassing. And boy, is it just nice to see a nice guy get to write a book that he
That's
loves
true.
this much.
You should also know that Roberto de la Torre's art on this book is fantastic. It is
Hmm.
like it is like remembering classic Conan. Like it's like if you ever read Conan, the images in your mind are what he's drawing for you.
Yeah. I just
So
want to
it's
paint
worth.
it on my van.
Cat lawyer, love it when we all just share our love for comics. Me too. We'll
Hell
be
yeah.
doing the opposite of that in a minute. MP, Superbooks, and World's Finest. Also been loving Zdarsky's Batman, especially the virus motif he's been building.
Mm.
Agree, the Red Mask arc is underrated. Zdarsky's inherited a broken sandbox and has taken it apart to rebuild. I don't know if it's broken. I mean, Batman can always be rebuilt in like you need one issue. One issue
Yeah.
can make Batman go from trash to riches. Doesn't take much, but Zdarsky is a talented writer and can do it in multiple arcs.
Oh,
I
yeah.
do genuinely believe he is building to like a reset, like he's
Probably.
fixing it. Tevye, my favorite is Flash by Jeremy Adams and PKJ Action.
Oh, yeah.
Um, yeah, his yes, that's right. Jeremy Adams had a Flash run that he was unceremoniously booted from,
Mm.
and Action Comics is a book that people seem to enjoy. I myself
It's
think,
good.
yeah, it is good. It is technically good.
It's the complete opposite of what Joshua Williamson is doing, and I love that we can have these two polar opposite Superman books because Action is more about him at home. It's more about the twins. It's more about
The family
rehabbing
he
old
built.
villains. Yeah, the family he built, rehabbing old villains. We had a great Metallo arc and everything. We got all this stuff going on with Blue Earth, which has actually been revealed to be tied into the Authority. To where I'm like, oh, holy shit, for real?
Well, that makes sense. He incorporated the Grant Morrison Authority in his run on
Yep,
on Warworld.
yep, that's
I
what it's
if
about.
if you have not read Cy Spurrier's Flash, the first issue is such a mind fuck. Like it's so like not what you'd expect, which is
It's a
exactly
horror
what.
book now.
Yeah, it's a horror book, and it also really like delves into the Speed Force and the horrors that could be found therein. It's this elemental force that exists that only recently people running can access. You don't know anything about it, and it's just like I love that.
Very
I know
Immortal
that Flash
Hulk.
fans hate that. Yeah, it's very Immortal Hulk, but like very uniquely its own thing. It's really cool. Good stuff. Uh, uh, if you guys haven't also read Captain America #1 from Babylon 5 creator J. Michael Straczynski with art
Yes.
by Jesus Saiz, then you're not paying attention. Like people who being like, "Oh, I don't like Captain America right now." People who are like arguing about things in Twitter feeds, you're clearly not reading this book.
Yeah, nothing on the shelf feels like this right now. JMS comes in swinging. This book is so good, it actually made me forget how much I loved the Lanzig and Kelly run before this, and how pissed
Yep.
I was that that one was clearly scuttled to make way for this, where I actually came in to the JMS series, my arms kind of crossed from like, I was enjoying the Outer Circle. I wanted to see where that went. And then I'm reading this, and I'm like, okay, this is really fucking good too. Yeah,
Yep.
JMS, you still got it.
Yeah.
You still got it.
Yeah. I hope that
Y-
he gets his Doctor Strange book.
Yeah,
He
that'd be
wrote
pretty
this.
good.
He wrote a terrible book called Strange, which was clearly what they read before they made the movie. But I'd like to see what he was teasing throughout his entire Spider-Man run.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Also, A plus. Or no, go
yeah.
ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, there are clear like editor's notes in the Spider-Man run that are like, that's gonna be answered in his upcoming Doctor Strange book that he
That never
doesn't
happened.
make ever again.
Also, A plus for incorporating real American history into your book and having a young Steve battle against the German American Bun, aka the guys who sent death threats to Jack Kirby when Captain America was first created and he first
Yeah.
punched Hitler in the face. I'm like, that's pretty fucking genius.
Yeah, yeah. If you yeah, you should be reading. If you miss Mark Waid on Captain America, this is the closest thing you'll get.
It's pretty good. Yeah, I'm even starting to warm up to the new villain too, the Emissary and the Dark Algorithms.
Exactly. Uh, I loathe what Marvel has done with Aliens, but Alien Annual #1 was definitely
Ooh,
worth picking up.
nice.
Really great from relative newcomer to the comic book scene in terms of art is Danny Earls on pencils. Still written by Declan Shalvey, who is doing just the best he can. That's all I could say about that. But it looks great, and Danny Earls is a rising star that if you haven't already seen his work, you will more as we go. I will admit, if you get a chance, like if you follow Danny Earls on socials or just go on Instagram or follow his website, you can see his art. Ruth Redmond did the colors and really fucked up the look of the book. Unfortunately,
Oh, that's a shame.
it just the Earl's pencils and inks are great. The colors muddy the waters on this book. But seeing the original pencils, you can see like where they're going with it. And it's like, oh, that would have been really cool. Not all is lost in Spider-Man world, because there is a Spider-Man
No.
book that I do enjoy, and it's doing an amazing job from Simon Spurrier and Lee Garbett to balance both the X-Men offices and world and the Spider-Man
Yeah.
influence, and that's Uncanny Spider-Man.
Yeah, Uncanny Spider-Man was a really pleasant surprise this year, wasn't it? I enjoyed it too. I like how it builds on Way of X and all the other
Yep.
stuff Spurrier was doing in that series. Nightcrawler is just a ton of fun and makes a weird amount of sense as Spider-Man, doesn't he?
It's a thing I've imagined as a kid forever. Spider-Man and Nightcrawler were my favorite characters when I was growing up.
Mhm.
Seeing like and putting Nightcrawler in a Spider-Man costume is just a no effing brainer for no good reason. I don't know why. Maybe because they have similar power sets. Maybe because they're both agile and jokesters.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's some this suit is fire. The book is fun, and it like everything that you love about Spider-Man. Like his classic villains like Vulture, his will they won't they, but wrong sides of the tracks / law, Black Cat romance. That's
Yeah.
exemplified in his issues with / dalliances with Silver Sable.
Great use of
we're
her. Great use of Spider-Man characters in general. I love evil Vulture, who is now
yes,
working for Orchis. He's like, yeah, I'm a mad scientist, of course. I needed some money, so I came to work for them.
100%. It's so great. If you were a classic kind of like Shade the Changing Man Vertigo fan, you should have probably picked up Tim Seeley, Patton Oswalt, and Jordan Bloom's book, The Alternates. This cover pretty much says everything you need to know about it. If
Oh
you think
yeah.
this cover is ugly or stupid, you would never enjoy it. If you think this is
Uh,
like kind of awesome, you're right. You'll love it.
Seeley had a great year this year too with Local Man, and I think was there another Money Shot this year?
Oh, I don't
I think there
know.
might have been another Money Shot this year, but yeah, Money Shot and Local Man. Seeley's been having a great year returning to the indies. The limiters are off, man. It's weird and it's dirty.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, good for Tim.
Yeah. Always liked his
What was
stuff.
it? Ricky Rowles says, I forgot to give love to Gunslinger and King Spawn. I'm glad
Oh
you like
yeah.
it. Yeah, I have not yet picked up Gunslinger Spawn, but I hear
I
good
said I
things.
was going to pick those up because they're like, yep, we're rebooting Spawn. We're getting some of your favorite writers on. I'm like, I should read these. And then I tried to read the prelude issue, and I'm like, I have no fucking clue what's going on here. This is
Yep.
not new reader friendly as they made
Nope.
it out to be.
Nope, they straight up aren't. Kyle Carter, the Two-Face backups and Detective and Poison Ivy book that deservedly became an ongoing from a 6-issue mini are my top DC stories in 2023. Nice, good for Two-Face. I'm glad he has a
Yeah,
thing
glad
going
he's done
on.
good.
Last Starfighter, I thought Matt Rosenberg's Wildcats and Kelly Thompson's Birds of Prey were
Mm.
phenomenal this year. I highly recommend them both. I think Last Starfighter, 50% of those are accurate. In my bottom is a book called Wildcats.
Oh yes.
Wildcats sucks.
That's a shame. I mean, you rolled the dice on Wildcats. I wasn't even brave enough to
I
roll
sure
the
did.
dice
Yeah,
on it.
there's the problem is it was just so uninteresting, and it was it was nobody's fault. I think that Rosenberg loves that universe and loves those
No
characters, but
doubt.
I think he loves them because he remembers them fondly, not because he has a really wicked pitch for them. Uh,
Mhm.
every time I saw the Wildcats, it was just like it was not a fun like reinterpretation of the team. It was just it felt broken and wrong. But
Aw.
moreover, what's the worst of it, the most damning thing was just that it was so effing boring.
That sucks.
That was one of those things where I was like, that was not the best from 2023. Um, but I think it may be too soon to tell. So honorable mention will have to go to Batman Offworld.
Oh yeah, first issue. I offer there. Am I going to put this on the list or not? Because it's a single issue. But yeah, Jason
Yeah,
Aaron writing a young Batman in space, learning to punch aliens harder than he's ever
yeah.
punched anything else.
I got to learn to punch aliens. That's the book. Is that fun?
Hell yeah.
We'll find out. I liked the first
Yeah,
issue a lot.
as did I.
Jackson
I like
Boyd,
it
thanks for your generosity.
simplistic.
Yes, it is rock simple, but that's what it's like. Jason Aaron writing Wolverine or Frank Castle. His
Yeah,
Batman, yeah. Jackson
yeah.
Boyd, thanks a lot for your generosity. Love Superman and Wonder Woman this year. Great writing, even better art. Immortal X-Men follows suit, and on the indie side,
Hmm.
Transformers. Just graduated college. Looking forward to more Comic Pop. Thanks, Jackson. Congratulations on graduation. Welcome to the real world. Hope you're doing well, and stay.
Oh yeah.
Make sure to keep those connections and those close friends and families. It's easy to lose track. Yeah, man. I don't consider Transformers an indie book.
I mean, I guess it is a massive, huge brand with its own movies and toy lines and
Yeah,
everything. So yeah,
I
not
don't consider
necessarily that.
Skybound. Skybound is not an independent studio. Like they make cartoons and movies and stuff. Like they're a
Wow.
corporation. Um, there's a book that I was so frustrated that it was so good, and I then stopped reading it for some reason, and I'm like, I don't know what the hell my problem is, and that was of course Tom King and Matt De La Torre's The Penguin.
Again, I was afraid to pick this up, even though, again, it's spies, it's neo-noir, it's, a villainous protagonist. It's like, Joel, these are all things
Yep.
you love.
Yep, you'd love it. I hate to say it, but you'd love it. It does kind of like remind me a little bit of the Penguin One Bad Day, very much
Right.
so.
Which
So
I
just you
like
have
more
to,
than you, so.
yeah. So you'd have to pretend like it didn't exist or something. It's just like
All
because you'd
right.
be like, this is just like that, but like hardcore. So yeah. Um, let's see here. Here's a book that I keep reading, and I'm like, I don't like this character. Why am I still reading it? But it's because it's just like it's just consistently one of the best looking books, and you can tell that the writer is having such a good time, and that of course is Mark Waid and Dan Mora's Shazam.
Oh, yes. I believe you mean the captain, as he is allowed
Yes,
to
the
be called.
captain, which
I
straight up
love
no one
Mark
is
Waid. Just
honoring.
no, I love
Like
Mark Waid. It's just like, fuck it, I'm gonna skirt it. You can't stop me. I'm Mark Waid. He's the captain now.
he's the captain, and like literally nobody at DC is calling him that. Like no one
No.
internally, no one in any other books. It's just this one book, and thankfully, since nobody else is reading this book, no one's gonna miss it. No one's gonna be mad that they're still calling them the captain. But yeah, it's joyful and fun,
As
and
Shazam should be.
and silly and great. It's just a
Yep.
good book. It's a solid good book. People are like, oh, I don't like books that are modern and stuff. Then read Shazam.
Yeah, because you couldn't ask for a more old school take.
Exactly. You mentioned this series as well, as it's consistently great. Green Arrow, a book that
Yeah.
I was like, I'll read it, and then I was like, well, I get it. Like, and it's it's deep cuts and family and
Oh yes.
compelling story,
It's
classic art.
it's not perfect. I loved it, but I fully
Mhm.
admit it's not perfect. It gets a little sloppy by the end because you could clearly tell where it went from just being a 6 issue to being a
Yes,
full 12 issue. And it's like, oh, okay, this is where ideas clearly changed and stuff got kicked down the road. But it gave me everything I wanted. The Arrow
that's
family's
exactly
back
right.
and better than ever. And I'm
Yep.
like, hell yeah, Joshua Williamson. That's all I asked for, bro.
That's literally it. It's just like, okay, fine. Here's the Nightwing book for Green Arrow fans.
Yep, basically.
Sean
Sometimes it's okay to
Isaacs,
just give fans what they've wanted forever. Sometimes it's okay.
especially if it's like a niche book like Green Arrow.
Yeah, yeah.
Sean Isaacs' art is great. Does a great job. Nice,
Mhm,
consistent comic booking. It's just good stuff. You're gonna like it.
mhm.
CJ Hall,
And we get some
ComicPop
Hester by
Woo.
the end there too.
Phil Hester's coming back for a onomatopoeia story.
Ooh, yeah,
So
which again is just totally the era that made me fall in love with Green Arrow in the first place. Like, okay, now you're stroking all my nostalgia buttons too on
yeah,
this one.
they
You get
know.
me. You get me, Green Arrow book. You get me.
Yeah, no. Josh knows that.
Mhm.
CPOP Woo
Yep.
Milestone's 30th anniversary special was fire. Yes, that's right. That's
Oh
right. I remember that
yeah.
series, and it was great. Yeah, that book was great. Dustin Zimbala says Zdarsky's Daredevil could have ended definitively, and it would have been a great ending for Matt's story. Also, Moon Knight was awesome this year. Agree on both fronts,
Mhm.
my friend. Thank you so much for
Mhm.
your generosity. CJ Hall returns to a powerbomb was excellent. Shout out to Joel. Well, there you have it.
Thank you.
Dante Cook, I'm showing up late, but did we say Wonder Woman Historia? Hi, Joel. No, we
Oh, hey
haven't.
Dante.
Wonder Woman
That's another
Historia
one
was
on
one of
my
those.
to read list.
Yes, that was a book that I didn't finish. I read the first issue. I was like, wow, and then I just didn't finish it. But
That was one of
I
the
do
first
have the
Black Label
hardcovers.
books they announced, right? And it took them forever to finally release it,
Yeah, huh? It was
which is
just
a
a
shame
shame. It took
because
forever.
Wonder Woman
Yeah,
should have more.
it hurt the momentum of this book uh, considerably. That first issue, the art is just like, I mean, look at that.
Pow.
Like, just it's a tour de force.
Making love to my
But
eye holes.
yeah, that's right. Yes. uh, Hobbs says, hey guys, happy holidays. Not sure if you had this question yet, but if you had to pick the defining book of the year for the big two, what would it be? I think we're going to hang on to that one. That's a good question,
Yeah.
Hobbs. I will make
Because it's a
sure.
hard answer.
It is a hard answer, and it's like, what represents the year? But yeah,
Ugh.
like I will ask. I will. I'll make a note for the ending of the episode. Lenny Laserdisc Sal, thank
Mhm.
you for reading the bad comics and telling us about it so I don't waste my money. You are doing God's work. I'm not trying to do it that way, but like if I help sell books, that's more important to me is selling the books rather than preventing people from buying them. YC Goosey, Danger Street as a whole was a wild ride. I can't lie. Gotham City was amazing. And the last panels with the Waynes and Slam Bradley always gets me. Yeah, it should.
Oh.
Every issue was a gut punch, and literally, Jay Sage just joined. Mary Popness, thank you very much, Jay Sage. I enjoyed the
Hey.
Superboy mini a lot. He warrants the attention. Still think he should play Supernova. He should go by Supernova, like in New 52. Oh, or in 52. Oh, yes. I also liked the Superboy book. It's just it wasn't my favorite series, but it was easy to drop. But I did actually go back and reread the whole series, and I enjoyed it.
Well,
Yeah,
that's good.
Superboy was a fun book. Did you like it? How'd you like it?
Good year for Superman. No, I didn't read that. That was the round robin one, right? That won
Yes.
and that they finally fully released.
That's the one.
Okay, yeah, I hadn't gotten around to it because it had a weird release schedule. Because like we're releasing it in digital first, then we're releasing it in physical. And I'm like, well, I can wait till it's out in physical.
Big time. Yeah, Superboy Man of Tomorrow. It's good, it's fun. It's it takes Connor, sends him into space, gives him his own adventure by him where he forms his own team. You could see him
Nice.
like he like misses Young Justice and he wants to try and he
Mm.
tries to force it with this other team of people from space, and they're like, we're not that. And it's just like it is very much a metaphor for like what you remember. You can't go home again, that kind of thing.
Oh.
Which I really like. Cat Lawyer will defend for treats. Says Ram V / Felipe Andrande's Rare Flavors is excellent. I never heard of it. So
I've seen the cover for that.
The
cover is
Guzio
very
says,
striking.
"Rip, RIP to the Jackson Lansing Captain America run. It had everything I wanted out of Captain America run, and it's gone now. At least Straczynski's trying."
That ending, I put that in my most disappointing thing, because they were clearly told, wrap it the fuck up. JMS is coming back for the first time in a decade. We don't give a shit what you're doing. We don't care if people really like it, and you're going places. Fuck you. You can have Thunderbolts, we guess. Which actually, that first issue with Thunderbolts was really good, and actually picks up everything they were doing and runs with it. So if you like that, you really need to be reading Thunderbolts.
Okay, I didn't read any of Thunderbolts. I skipped it, but I always heard. I remember. Okay, so I actually follow JMS on Facebook, which is like weird, but I remember him posting, and he didn't think it was going to replace the book. He thought it was going to be a companion Captain America book. So please don't blame JMS.
No, I'm not
don't
blaming
JMS for this book. No, I'm saying folk out there, like don't blame JMS for that, because he did not. I don't think he knew that it was going to replace the book. I think he thought it was going to be a supplemental book.
That checks out.
Yeah.
Because they clearly had years worth of plans, Lansing and Kelly, on that book that never got to see the light of day. And they cram it all into that last issue where they're like, fuck you. If we got to end it, we're going to put everything on the page that we had written.
That's right. Which I don't blame them for.
I respect it.
Exactly. Denial had to add Miles Morales as Spider-Man to my best of list. Even his latest tie-in crushes it.
It's true. That ended up being my number one. Yeah, the Miles book is just going from strength to strength. Ziegler is killing it. It's as exciting and wonderful and enjoyable as the early Bendis issues was. And yeah, like he says, this is a book that has been inundated with a lot of shitty tie-ins to events that it's had to do. And even those don't stop it. Ziegler manages to make the tie-ins work.
Yeah.
It's just a joy.
Of that. Yeah, Crimson Kid agrees. He says, speaking of good non-Peter Spider-Man books, Ziegler's Miles Morales run has been a joy every month. I love the energy he brings to the character.
Yep. It feels fresh and new. He's actually moving the character forward. He's going to therapy, for Christ's sake. I'm like, man, if Peter went to therapy at his age, imagine what a more well-adjusted adult he could be now. And he has a sword.
Never going to do that. And he has a sword. I've heard about the sword. I've seen it in action.
Which, man, let me tell you, I don't think there's few characters out there in all of fiction that couldn't be improved even slightly by and now they have a sword.
Yeah, I think if Peter threw a sword around, it would be ridiculous. But
when
Miles is okay. Last Starfighter. I failed to also mention Sergeant Rock versus the Army of the Dead, as well as Phantom Road. I deliberately didn't mention Phantom Road because Tiffany loves Phantom Road, and we'll talk more about that on Off the Rack.
There was a new Sergeant Rock book this year. Good pull.
Right? I didn't know that. I completely skipped it. Well, though I did read the Wesley. Yeah, I read the Wesley Dodds Sandman book, and I was like, oh, okay.
It's a good year for Golden Age characters.
Yeah. Danville 900, my favorite miniseries were Gotham City Year One, my favorite ongoing World's Finest, and Superman by Williamson. Superman Space Age had such a great first two issues, and then the final issue was a disappointment. Traveling to Mars is great. The Wesley Dodds Sandman was so good. Daredevil was up there in the end. Yeah, I remember reading Superman, no, not Space Age, but it was Lost. I read the first issue, and I'm like, I know where this is going, and I skipped it.
And my other co-host, Matt, loves it. I think that's probably going to be his favorite book of the year, actually.
Nice. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Danby 900, for your support and for your generosity. There are other books I want to talk about really quickly. There is a book that this is more like a, this is a good book? What? And that was Gold Goblin.
Right. Yeah. This was in my honorable mentions too. Chris Cantwell killed it. I cannot believe one of the more interesting things in Spider-Man in 2023 was Norman Osborn's attempt at, redemption, but also him questioning, does he deserve redemption? And the book also being kind of metatextual, where it's like, look, I know I'm just going to fall back into being the Green Goblin anyway, but that doesn't mean I still shouldn't try, because if that's the case, I might as well just kill myself right now.
Right. Exactly. And it's like, will you? It's funny. I remember tweeting about the Gold Goblin.
And, I remember this.
Yeah, I got. I was
reminded. Brought you back.
Yes, I was reminded once again that these creators are human beings. who can be, you know, just as affected as you and me, folks out there.
Yeah.
Where I said something like, "I don't feel anything when I look at this." I can't find the tweet anymore, but I was like, "I don't feel anything when I look at this. I just feel empty and sad." And he was like, "I promise it's good." And I'm like, "Dude, first of all, I don't deserve a response, but secondly, I will give it a try." And I read it, and I was like, "F me. Gold Goblin was a good book. Who'd have thought?"
Norman was one of the only good things in Spider-Man. Again, Wells, to his credit, actually picked up on that mini when it ended, and that went right throughout the main Spider-Man book and continued to be like one of the only compelling things they're doing.
Yeah, one of the consistent references to it, you know, was an event from last year, not 2023, which was the AXE event. The exploration
Ah,
of like
yes.
when Norman Osborn is visited by Gwen, or his memory of
Yep.
Gwen, and just being like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I asked for this." Like, it was really cool. It was cool that they did
That
it.
was good. Acts in general, I will say, this was a year of
Yeah.
terrible, terrible events. You know, Dark
Hmm.
Web, Lazarus Planet, Night
Yeah.
Terrors. Axe was good. Axe actually had some big ideas, some big questions, organically built out of the X-Men book. Ended up being a great swan song for the Eternals. Asked some hard questions that
Yes.
events don't normally ask the reader, and I think that you can actually go back and read that later and it would actually be good. Hats off to Gillen. And then Gillen did it twice, because then he did Sins of Sinister, which similarly also pretty goddamn good, pretty big concept, actually can be read in a bubble. So, you know, good on you, man, for knocking back two events that also featured Mr. Sinister quite heavily in both.
Yeah, Kieran Gillen really likes Sinister. You could tell.
Sure does.
Sinister was a spectacular Age of Apocalypse-esque X-Men event.
Yep.
If this book had came out in 2020, if this event had come out in 2009, it would
Hmm.
be there'd be action figures of it. It'd be
Oh, yeah.
celebrated.
Oh,
The fact
yeah.
that it came out this year means that nobody remembered it, and the people who didn't read it said that it sucked.
Shame.
Because
A
that's the world we
beautiful
live in.
story about hubris, too, where Mr.
Yeah.
Sinister's like, I've done it, I've won, I've corrupted everyone. Oh no, they're better at being corrupted than I am. Shit, what did I do?
Yeah. No, it was excellent. Axe was great. Sins of Sinister was great. Eat me.
What a
The other
1-2 punch.
Yeah. After the first amazing Hellfire Gala, and then the second, "Oh, wait, they did another Hellfire Gala," there was the third Hellfire Gala this year, and it was
Yes.
amazing.
Yes, it was, and it breathed fresh life into the line of X-Men books. Again, I have on my list here just Fall of X in general, which I think, you know
Yes.
what? These were all really good, and it started here.
Yep. If you are like, I skipped all of it, like, before Sins of Sinister, you're missing out. You've missed out on,
Yes, you
like, a
are.
really cool period.
They found
The
their
Fall of
footing
X.
post-Hickman in a major way.
Yeah, yeah, no. Fall of X was great, or is great. Hellfire Gala sets everything up. Read that if you don't know anything. You'll be like, "What?" Like, that
Again,
was insane.
we spent all this time building up, and now we get to have a lot of fun knocking down the house of cards, which I love. And hey, if we're, you know, shining a spotlight on X-Men related stuff, Miss Marvel, the New Mutant from
Yeah,
Iman Vellani, ended up actually being great. And it's one of those very unique things in comics where killing her and making her a mutant in the Spider-Man books and everything totally sucked ass and was in bad
yep,
taste. But then they handed it to a creator who actually gave a shit and really liked the character, and she turned it into something wonderful and cool, and something that reminded me of the G. Willow Wilson years, and the allegory of Miss Marvel joining the X-Men as like an allegory for going to college and making new friends is so genius and so thoroughly Kamala, where I'm like, God damn it, you did it. You did it.
yep,
And now they're bringing her back for another mini. And I'm like, good, you should. But what the
yeah,
fuck are you going to do when she leaves?
yeah. I don't know, but yeah, that was a nice surprise. And I mean,
Sure is.
I genuinely believe that they killed her off in Spider-Man to get the most amount of people to be aware of it, so that they could then have an
Probably.
inflated sales for issue 1. But
Yeah.
but it backfired on them. Speaking of female-led mutant books, Louis Simonson's Jean Grey was an amazing series that
I'm hearing
harkens
good
back.
things about this.
Yeah, it harkens back to, like, it reminded me of, like, the best times of X-Men, and also reminded me of things like Days of Future Past or What If, or you know, the Phoenix Saga. Like, this is such a
Mhm.
great book, and it was just like, so Jean dies, during the Hellfire Gala, spoilers, and in the throes of her death, she recedes into her mind and basically says, like, what if, like, what could I have done to prevent this? And so each issue is an exploration of a
Mm,
different, like, thought exercise, an exploration of what she could have done to prevent this, and how we don't have control over our own lives. It's just a great book,
nice.
worth reading. It's so good. Uh,
I, I
a
I
book,
think the last one
yeah.
I had on my list was a Mortal Thor, which again is only
Ah,
4
yes,
issues deep right now. But again, this is a slow burn for Ewing, is what this is. It's not like a
very.
Mortal Hulk where it comes out swinging, but I think we're finally at the point now. I was kind of on the border of this one. I didn't know if it would make it. But we're
Mhm.
seeing the return of Dario Agger, a lot of really interesting ideas, the old Utgardian gods, a new Thor core, lots of fun ideas. Thor, in one of my favorite moments, Loki shows up with brand new pronouns, and Thor is sure to honor those. And I'm like, oh, that's
Yep.
really nice, actually.
The use of Loki was also brilliant in this series because
Yes,
it's
it
like
was.
it worked perfectly. This is a book where I was like, I recognize how good this book is, but I just, at the end of the day, I'm just not a Thor fan. So like, I
Mm,
appreciate all the things that are happening. I'm just like, but I'm just not. I'm never going to stick with it.
Again, it is, a certain vintage, a certain flavor, but I think it's getting there. And again, love the promise of Dario Agger and everything happened there. He's back and he's bought Marvel in continuity.
Yeah,
because
I heard
because
about that.
Marvel Comics exists and he's an evil CEO, and because he had his own weird run-in with the original Hulk Zemnu and everything, and that's
Yes.
left him all weird and fucked up and metatextual now.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
And I'm like, I
I
like
should
it. I like everything.
Right. I should mention, of course, the Superman book, which is the most
Yeah,
Superman feeling Superman book since Tomasi.
sure is.
And if you love Superman or you want to, you should read this. It is not the book I would give to someone who's like, I don't like Superman, but I want to start
Mm,
reading Superman. But it is a book for people who have loved Superman, who would want to read it, who especially love the cartoon.
yep.
So
Love
that's
Graft and
definitely worth it.
Farm. Love Lex
Yeah.
Luthor trying to work with Superman. Love the re-envisioning and upgrading of old villains like
Yes.
Livewire and like Parasite and everything else.
Yep.
Banshee.
Yep. I'm excited for more of that
Same.
series. I just really enjoy it. A
But
book
promise
that
of a big
I
event there with Brainiac and other Lobos.
yeah, the City of Lobo is something I can't wait to see.
The
Uh
Lost Lobos, as I call them.
yes, exactly. Your boy Chips Ahoy says, catch all on the repeat, but throw in my 2 cents. Best continuing to continue is Moon Knight. The best new series is easily Transformers. As a fan, it's giving so much, and it's very different from the other versions. I'm glad to see that it's different from other things. I know it
Yeah.
doesn't, I know that D-Dubs loved the toys, and I know he probably read the Marvel book. I feel like it feels like a cartoon. It feels like the cartoon.
Mm.
And of course, Girk Pectus, worst fire, ice, Smallville's best, worst, world's finest. I didn't read it.
I didn't either. I'm
I
actually
can't
seeing
speak to it.
Fire and Ice on a lot of best of lists this year, so
Me
that seems
too.
to be an either you'll love it or you'll hate it type thing.
100%. A book that I never would have expected to enjoy. That I was just like, I'll read this, but like, we'll see where it goes. But I was like blown away by how like fun and cool and and representative it was. Was of course TMNT Stranger Things.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
This
yeah.
crossover this crossover is something where it's like, where is this coming from? And then you think about it for a minute, and you're like, oh right, it's two 80s properties slamming into each other, and
Mhm.
it is very much a Stranger Things story starring the Ninja Turtles. It's just like, why would you do this? But like, I
I know,
really
right?
like it. The thing that really like helped was I read a black and white version. It was unfinished, uncolored version. By the way, this is written by Cameron
Oh,
Chittock with art by Pharaoh Peniche, and
nice.
it was uncolored. Sophie Dogson does the colors, and they do a great job. But
Mm,
it had that because the turtles by Peniche look like Eastman Laird turtles.
nice.
Like they look like they are drawn with like a heavy ink marker. Like they look like the
Cool.
turtles. But like in a consistent style with like the real world that like 11 would be in. And I'm like, and it's like, right, because it's set in the 80s. These are the turtles
Mhm.
of the 80s. Like that, they
Mhm.
didn't have to do that, but they do. And so, but the black and white gave it such a like like a legitimacy. I
Authenticity,
want I want them to re-release the first issue in like a black and white variant, because I think it
Nice.
really did like sell the Turtles thing of it. I was like, that was really cool. And like it is very much a crossover where you're like, oh yeah, so there's Baxter teaming up with like Papa. Like, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Okay, I get it. Like they literally merged, they hybridized Mousers and Demodogs
Of course.
into like
Of course they did.
Demousers. It's just like, yeah, that's okay. This book did, no one asked for this, and yet it justifies itself in a big bad way.
I think it speaks to the power of Turtles too. They've crossed over with fucking everyone at this point.
I know, right? Yeah, totally. Gods #1 was too expensive, but it was also excellent. Jonathan Hickman.
Oh yeah.
Clearly, this was a pitch for Doctor Strange that then they went, oh, I'm just gonna make my own guy, and
100%.
he works so well as a foil for Doctor Strange. Like, he is so much like in Strange's face. He represents what Strange is worried about being. It's Strange actually manages to be a character in this series that is set against him and declares this guy as a different person. Like, and I loved it. I was like, this is exactly the kind of fun and like excitement that I had for Hawks and Pox, but for magic. Something I would never care about.
I had a hard time getting into this one because I thought it was a lot to take in. I do love the naming conventions, though, of the two organizations, the powers that be, in the natural order of things. I'm like, this is pretty fucking good.
Agreed. No, it's definitely worth checking out. And of course, the first issue was very expensive, but the second issue is normally expensive. It's $4.99. So
yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like the hype for this kind of died down. Everyone was super horny for that first issue, and then I did not hear anyone talk about issue 2.
Hey, you know why that is? I know exactly why that is. It's because of the release of a book called Ultimate Invasion #1. That's what freaking deflated all the sales of everybody, because this book, I mean, when you look at it, you're like, right, yes, finally, the maker is going to enact his plan. We saw a teaser where he goes to visit Miles. We see the 616 universe. Oh my God, wait, that's the Illuminati. Oh my God, the Illuminati and the maker. Are they chasing him? Are they working together? What is this? And then it's like something else, something no one asked for, something that you can't even really comprehend because it's so effing impenetrable. Eat my ass. This book is boring and it's $10. Bite me.
That one really lost me on the last issue where I'm like, okay, and if this was all just going to be a prologue for the new Ultimate Universe, you really should have just bundled it all together and called it Ultimate Prologue. And I think people would have been a little less upset because, okay, you did the job you set out to do. The stage is now set for the Spider-Man and the Black Panther and the X-Men and everything. It's all there. But did I enjoy the trip getting there?
Hell no. There were ideas there that were presented in a really great way, but it failed.
I also have my reservations, too, about this series where it's like, okay, new Ultimate Universe, new rules, new everything. Boy, you guys spend a lot of time making reference to the old 616 universe. I don't know if that's the right choice, but I'm not a writer.
Yeah, this was like, there's no... Compare it to Donny Cates's whole build-up to the Ultimate Universe, someone who loved it.
Which would have been
This
totally
seems like someone
different.
who had absolutely no reverence for it whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like, to the point where there are sequences where they take iconography like the ultimate design for Captain America and Thor and Iron Man and just threw thousands of them at the book like they were garbage. It's just it was a book that it was entirely unsentimental and uninteresting and pretentious. That being said,
I will say though this is a book that used Kang that I think actually came from a more honest place than other books that have used Kang. We're like, no, Hickman has always liked the Reed Richards Doom Kang connection. It's fine that Iron Man in this world is Iron Lad. I don't feel that this was some sort of multimedia mandate. No, more Kang and more things.
Yeah, no, that did not feel like that to me. But Ultimate Universe #1 is where they should have started.
Yeah, probably.
I liked it. I like this. I like this aesthetic too. Just the design element of the Ultimate Universe books. Great idea. It is unfortunately tied to the Ultimate Invasion series, which is bloated and expensive, but it made me interested. It went from I don't give a crap anymore to okay, I care again.
You won me back.
Right, exactly.
I like that Sif is a member of the team. I like she's Thor's jailer, and she's just hanging out there now.
Exactly. That's kind of fun.
And that they also don't know how to de-thaw Captain America. I don't know. Should we shoot him with lasers? Should I hit him with my hammer? I don't know,
right?
man. We've never had to defrost a guy before.
Right? What a weird problem to have. And though I had known about this book for a while and I had read it a long time ago, so I knew it was going to be something special, and I was really happy to see it finally hit the stands. Wonder Woman from Tom King and Daniel Sampere.
Yes.
The art is incredible. Daniel Sampere's
heard.
best work is in this book. Every issue is better than the last looking. King's voice for Diana is not what I want, but I like
a lot
the
of people
story.
were reticent about it.
Right. I like the story, the pitch, and the idea, and I like the depiction of Diana. I don't like that she has like an accent. Like I don't like the lack of conjunctions, or contractions. I like everything else, and I love the depiction of Diana. I could do without the like Gal Gadot of it all.
Yeah, I was reticent to pick this one up, but my other co-host Matt tried to sell me on it with 3 words, King of America, and I'm like, okay,
yeah,
that's
the King of America thing is. It's a fun idea. The reason
so classic old timey comics. I am the King of America.
Oh yeah, and it's like this old white guy sitting on a throne with a big ugly crown. Like you could feel the kind of like King Charles references, but also oh, everyone in the U.S. Congress is 105. This also had the last issue had an amazing backup, establishing Lizzie with John and Damian. And basically Damien takes like 8-year-old Lizzie on like an adventure and like shoves her in a Robin costume and fights Killer Croc, and it's so great. It is a book. It's like, if they won't give Tomasi Super Sons and force him to like kind of morph Super Sons into some weird bad guy book, then give Super Sons to Tom King because he seems to get it.
Interesting.
But don't call it Super Sons because there's also a girl there now.
It is funny how King is like that. It's like, my stuff's pretty dark and pretty fucked up and pretty psychological. I talk about suicide, but I also like happy, fun stuff with, Superman and the sidekicks and everything.
Yeah, well, it's I'm not a creep. These are children we're talking about here.
Yeah, what an interesting guy with 2 sides to him.
Yeah, it's the parent in him, I think, that makes
that's true. You can always tell in Tom King's work what's going on in his life. And the last couple books, you became a parent, right? And your kids are growing up, and that's really affecting you because you're one of those writers who is always just writing what's going on with them. Because again, in Batman and Heroes in Crisis, you were going through a dark time, man, weren't you?
You can feel it. Oh no, yeah. So let's talk about some stuff that didn't work this year. There was a book that I was so you can't imagine how disappointed I was based on the depiction on the cover when I was like, okay, so Donny Cates is out and they need to wrap up Thor because Donny Cates unexpectedly and drastically left the book. So you get this cover of Thor fighting Doctor Doom, and you're like, yes, Donny, who I'm in.
More, please.
This book was so boring and so uninteresting, and it wanted to be something, but it didn't. It just didn't do it. It just didn't get there, and it's such a shame.
It sucks that this series will always have a cloud of what if hanging over it. Like, oh, he never got to tell the story he wanted. He never got to finish it from like Black Winter onward.
He did say he will be returning to talk about like the Thanos Mjolnir, the Infinity Hammer, and all that other stuff. So like,
which ties into Thanos wins and everything because Cates has been telling one huge story across all of his books about this timeline.
Hopefully, he'll remember where it all goes. I don't think this is representative of Torunn Grønbek's work. I just think that like she was done a disservice by being like, issue 32, jump on and fix Thor. Like
it was a lose-lose. It really was.
It was, but it was also like it was a hard lose. I was like, damn, that was a disappointment. Another one that I was really high on. I'm like, here we go. I'm gonna read this. Carlos Villa drawing the Avengers with Jed McKay. Oh, okay. So I just don't like
Yeah, I was so on to this when it started, and I was so ready to take this ride. I like the ideas, but the pacing is what kills this
Yes.
one for me.
Yeah. Well, it's the pacing and the cast. I like all these characters individually, and I've liked them as a team. I liked them during the All New All Different period too. Like, I've liked these guys and gals, but for some reason, this book just carries the Aaron tradition of boring and uninteresting.
Yeah,
It's
I
and
really
it's
wanted to get into it.
right, and it also carries with it, like, it's the problem is the consistency of all these things, like, the problem with all of them. The next one too, the next 3 books I have where I'm like, "These were not great in 2023," they were boring.
Mm.
They were not exciting, they did not make a splash. Similarly, and I think we all knew this was coming because of the meteoric rise of this series when in its first volume, and then the humdrum, "Oh, wait, that finished," of its conclusion, and now its sequel, Batman Echoes.
Oh yeah, the Batman '89 continuation.
Yeah. Oh. Just oh. That's what this book is. It's just an oh.
I, I didn't even take the dive, and now I know I'm not missing anything.
It's just like it just makes me wish I could have it. Like Madonna as Harley Quinn and Jeff
Mm,
Goldblum as Scarecrow in
yeah.
like 1993 is awesome. Yeah, I would love that with Winona Ryder as Barbara Gordon. Yeah, these are all things that I wish I could watch that unfortunately, like, Sam Hamm is not a comic book writer, and Joe
Mm,
Quinones is a great concept artist. But
mm.
the panel layout and the depiction of the story and the tone and the tone's fine, but like it doesn't work as a comic book.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Um, this is another series that is just like, what are you doing? Um, this is a book that, like, when it launched, I was like, what are you doing? What is this? And then it ended, and then they were like, Volume 2, baby, new version of Predator. Oh,
Oh yeah.
it's the same thing as before, but more? Pass. Predator
Yeah.
should be an episodic story. If I can't get Predator movies, right? If you can't
Yeah.
give me Predator movies, like, unless or it takes them 5 to 10 years to make them, because like Prey is
Mm.
great.
Yeah, it
Prey is great,
is.
and it does the thing. But this is an ongoing saga about one girl whose parents were inexplicably murdered by a predator. I'm not
Mm.
I'm not here for that.
I bought a
I'm
Predator book for the Predator. Give me the
right.
Predator.
Like, Dark Horse had it right 30 years ago, where it was like, and they also had like an ongoing thing where it's like, Dutch had a brother because we have likeness rights problems. We
Mm.
want it to be Dutch, but Dutch has a beefy brother that looks and acts just like him. And I'm like, no, but they have an ongoing thing with that, where it's like the Predators coming to New York, and it's a whole thing. At least it was Dark Horse, so there could be blood, and it could be like gruesome and violent and, like,
Mm.
stupid. But like the Predator minis were where it was at. Predator goes
Yeah.
here, Predator goes there. Predator Cold War. A Predator ship is down during the Cold War in Siberia. They send Americans and Russians to go investigate, and Predator kills them. That's the
Yeah.
book.
Yeah, just
This
drop the
is
Predator at different interesting points in history.
right. And even if you were going to do a 6-issue mini, like, okay, so here's a story. It's about this girl, her parents are killed by a predator, and she hunts them down. Okay. But like, wrap it up.
That can't be the whole book, can it?
That can't be 2 volumes of Predator books. Yeah. Apropos of that, despite the like spit in the eye of having Greg Land draw any of it, Predator versus Wolverine is continuing to be cool.
So I hear.
It's a cool book. I hate this 20th Century Studios logo.
It's not great.
It's just like it wasn't designed to be small. What is that? Like, what does that mean? What are you doing? It's a Marvel book. Just put your
Yeah.
effing logo on it like a big boy. Grow up.
Yeah, why are you afraid of that? Just call again. You think you're going to cause what is it, confusion in the marketplace? Where it's like, well, how can
Right?
this be a Marvel thing? Like, well, it is now.
Or are you worried children will suddenly in today's world end up in a comic book store and pick it up and accidentally get like an R-rated book, which it barely is, by the way. But Percy does a great job with the character. Ken
Yeah, he
Lashley's art
does.
is great. Like Ken
Always loved
Lashley's
Lashley.
present day Predator story. I just want that. Like, I just wanted a Predator book that's just that. Like, I would
I'm a
love a
simple man.
3-issue miniseries with Ken Lashley just drawn Predator versus Wolverine. Can we just do that? Or
Yeah.
like, is there a way I could just get that? Like, because there are some, every issue is a different period in Predator or in Wolverine's history, and he's still being hunted by this
Yes.
Predator. And I'm like, that's fun.
It's also kind of tied to stuff Percy did in X-Force and Wolverine, which I think is kind of cool. It's like it's in continuity, but it's not in continuity, but it's definitely in continuity.
It is straight. It can't be, because like there's a scene where like Wolverine escapes from like the Weapon X project because he was attacked by a Predator, and like the Predator tries to like leave with him, and then like Wolverine falls out of the ship, but he takes a Predator mask with him, and they reverse engineer it and build that iconic Weapon X
Oh.
helmet out of it. I'm like, no. But also,
well,
that's
Wolverine's
that's the
forgotten
kind
a
of
lot of things, you know?
that's the kind of schlock I'm here for.
You
Like,
know, he's memories,
I'm in.
he's all messed up Wolverine, you know? He kind of remembers that's how it happened.
Yes. I saw I don't remember if it was an article or a tweet. That's kind of what kind of world we live in, where
I know, right?
somebody was like, "This book failed, and it's everyone's fault." And that's Avengers Incorporated. I remember
Oh,
somebody
yeah,
being
getting
really
cut
upset.
short at 5 issues.
Like, they're like, you didn't buy it, and this didn't blah 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 blah. This book, this cover looks like all the Eisner nominated comic books
It is.
at one time.
The first
Like,
issue is pretty damn good, though.
the first issue for me, it was fine. It was
It's
fine.
it was everything I like, and like, ooh, a noir detective take on Avengers. I read that first issue. I'm like, well, this isn't going to make it. And I was right at 5 issues. I'm like, this is everything that doesn't sell, which is a shame because I like this more, mature take on superheroes where it's like, yeah, they're not going to be wearing their costumes. They're going to be solving mysteries and everything. And I'm like, I'm down for this, but no one else will be. So I'm not going to get my heart broken and invest in this.
Like Al Ewing on this with like, and I think Leonard Kirk's art did fine. I think it serviced the story well enough, but it didn't push the envelope the way that this book feels like a mandate. This book feels like they were trying to achieve, like they were like, DC keeps making these black label books.
Yes, it
here's one from us.
Label-esque.
Yeah, and it's like, you're Marvel. First of all, resurrect any of the 6 imprints you created to try and eat DC's Vertigo lunch. Any of them. Epic, Max, whatever.
Oh yeah, Max, please.
Right? They just put out this thing that doesn't, with no fanfare, with no discussion, no promotion. Just here's
buried
this.
under a bunch of other Avengers and Avengers adjacent books at the time, which that killed.
Yes.
You can't have Jed McKay's Avengers and Uncanny Avengers in this out at the same time.
Right, and Avengers Incorporated. I mean, that being said, I mean, I remember when like USA Avengers came out, it was like, how many Avengers books were coming out around that time? Like,
it was
5?
like 5, I think. Yeah.
Like, yeah. So I mean, like,
and they all lasted for a fair amount of time.
There's a tradition, but no, Avengers Incorporated it did too little. Like, it didn't go far enough. It didn't try hard enough, and it was a monument to half measures.
It was nice to see Janet be the lead again. It was nice to see them actually try and do something with the whole Fisk law. Heroes can't be heroes in New York, but they fucking do. So what does it even matter?
Right. No, the problem I think ultimately for me with Avengers Incorporated was it's just like it doesn't. It feels like a mandate, and they're not going to believe in it. Like, that no one is behind it. It was just
that's why I dropped it.
Yeah, you have to. It's just like
I like the first issue, and I'm like, no, I'm not getting invested in this because I know Marvel will kill this prematurely, and I was correct.
Exactly. No, I can't.
My sixth sense, got set off for this one.
Oh yeah, but it is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like it's like, I know this is going to get canceled, so I didn't buy it, so it got canceled. But like, this book would live and die from word of mouth and pre-orders, and neither of those things were going to happen because the book was just. Word of mouth was, oh, how's Avengers Incorporated? It looks like Human Target and Gotham City Year One at one time, and with Avengers in it. Oh yeah, it's neither of those things. It's actually neither of those things. It looks like two things that it isn't, and it is something
like
else.
An X-Files.
Yeah. So, plus there are other characters that could do X-Files in the Marvel Universe more seamlessly
than Janet and Victor Shade.
Exactly. Nicholas LaHaye says, "Hey Sal, love the channel. Thanks a lot, Nick. Was curious if you finished Vanish and what you thought of it." No, I dropped Vanish. I read the first few issues and I was just like, okay, no, and I dropped it. I liked it fine. It didn't. It was exactly what it set out to be. It was it was a very unpretentious book, but it just fell through the cracks. It wasn't a thing where I rage quit it. It was just a thing I just didn't read anymore. The Space Cowboy, thanks for your generosity. Hope my favorite comic tubers are doing well today. Well, Joel, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Good.
Not fainting anymore. That's good.
That's great. Yes. Just want to throw a shout out to my Boom IDW TMNT Power Rangers crossovers, just like Boom Studios PR in general. Never been more of a PR fan, but before until now. I didn't read it. Awesome. Did you read the TMNT Power Rangers book?
I kept meaning to because it looked good. There were so many goddamn like Power Rangers crossovers. They had a Power Rangers Godzilla this year. I'm pretty sure they got around the Rangers this year.
Yeah. I don't care enough about Power Rangers to read a crossover. That was it. Nikki T, link to the show. Favorite books this year for me have been Josh's Superman and Wade's Death of Lex Luthor. Have a great holiday. You too, Nikki T. Captain Coon Transformers by Danny Warren Johnson is one of my favorite books this year. Never knew I wanted to see Optimus Prime suplex Starscream or Luke Skywalker with his own severed arm until it was presented to me. I mean, that's D-dubs, right? I didn't know I wanted this, that, and the other thing, but suddenly, boom. I want it all the time now. I mean, I didn't know I wanted to see Wonder Woman wield Superman's severed spine in battle, but here we are. But the question really becomes, what is the defining book of the year? What was your book that represented 2023 for you?
It's hard to tell because, like I said, it was eclectic. I thought I had a number one book, and then that number one book turned out to have been from 2022, which I think that should tell you everything about my list and the type of year this was, where it's like, there was a lot of good stuff. I read a lot of books, but I don't know if anything, really hit me on the level of like, oh, this is a classic that will live, forever. Maybe Miles Morales Spider-Man. I guess we'll call it the year of that because, we had the big movie and everything, and the book is managing to continue to stay strong and pick up steam and, be the Spider-Man book that's exciting me at a time when Amazing isn't. And I guess that's the thing. We're in an age of counter programming. If one of the big AAA ones isn't doing it for you, there's a smaller, more interesting book out there that probably will.
Oh my God, we didn't talk about Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, I mean, we devoted 2 other podcasts too. What else can we say about it? It fucking sucks. Fucking wreck rap. This is one of the worst eras of Spider-Man we've been in forever.
Yeah, Spider-Man's been tough.
It's infuriating.
It's tough enough to crack. I don't know what's to blame.
No, right? Me neither. It's the death
I don't
of a million
know if cuts. Yeah, I mean, it could be too much studio interference. It could be too much interference. It could be editorial interference. It could be, it could be like, I think that's what it is. Because I mean, like, we've seen Zeb Wells produce art we enjoy, from his Robot Chicken stuff to his Hellions.
Not even that long ago, yeah.
Right. Like, no, like, it is not Zeb Wells' fault that the book sucks. Because
just
Zeb Wells is
talent
not a
like
bad
that.
writer. Exactly.
No.
Like, it's not like he's just like I mean, like, you can get a bad book from a good writer by having the wrong writer on that book. That's very true. And I think that everything that I don't like about the book is both, it is and is not Zeb Wells' fault. I think that like Hellions is not a book for me. I recognize its genuine nature and and the fact that it's good.
Was for me.
But right, exactly. Like, my wife loved it, you loved it, I get it. I would not like a Zeb Wells book starring Spider-Man. Just wouldn't like it. I know it from where you can see Zeb Wells' influence. From his rec raps to his stupid that guy, like the debt collection guy.
God, that whole fucking storyline. Well, the funny thing, Wells did write Spider-Man I like. In the Beyond era, his was the best stuff. Where I'm like, oh yeah, I should totally give the book to him. Then they gave the book to him, and I'm like, okay, so yeah, it's definitely not your fault.
Yeah. No, honestly, for me, it was like, because Kelly Thompson was also working on the Beyond era, and I was like, oh, I hope Kelly Thompson gets it. And I'm still right about that. I hope Kelly Thompson, I wish Kelly Thompson got it. But you know what? I feel like Kelly Thompson probably was like, I don't want that. I mean,
I want Birds of Prey.
Chip Zdarsky had been very vocal. I mean, he did a AMA before Zeb Wells got on Spider-Man, where he was wrapping up his Peter Parker Spider-Man book, and people were like, when are you going to take over Amazing? And he's like, the last thing I want is to write Amazing.
So clearly
And
he knows something we don't. Clearly that
he
position is
knew, like,
cursed.
absolutely, he knew that, like, he wasn't going to be able to do what he wanted. He knew that it was going to be like, because it's one of those things. And it's what's funny about it is, we know if you fuck up Batman, you're fired,
Mhm.
and it doesn't matter how many
Yep.
Eisners you have, right? Because
That's
Tom
the
King
golden
got
boy. Get out.
fired of a Batman. And if Batman sales dip, comic book stores suffer. That's
Yes.
a proven fact. Spider-Man has to be the Batman equivalent at Marvel. So
You
you'd
would
have
think.
to assume that, like, the pressure is equal between Marvel and DC when it comes to, like, the flagship books. Yet Zdarsky did not want Amazing Spider-Man, but is writing Batman.
I know, it's weird, isn't it?
So that tells me that it's not just the fact that, like, there's pressure, corporate pressure. It's a different kind of corporate pressure. I think the Marvel pressure is more stressful, and it's more invasive, and it's more disruptive.
Definitely.
And I think we can see that in this. Now, it could be editorial. It could be the long-standing editor. That being said, I tend to tune out the complaints about the current editor of Spider-Man, the guy who's been there for a while. I can't remember his name, Nick Lowe. Because I remember the exact same complaints about Steve Wacker when he was the editor of Spider-Man. If you could one-to-one the things people said about Nick Lowe and the things they said about Steve Wacker, same exact complaints, which says to me that it's neither of their faults and that it's their boss's faults. But it can't be Axel Alonso because he ain't there no more. And it can't be CB Cebulski because he was there during Things You Do Like, and he doesn't have enough power over there anyway. So who is it? And it can't be Ike Perlmutter.
It's a company-wide.
Yeah. Right? It's a straight-up company-wide problem. That there might maybe
environmental issue,
Right. It could be, like, systemic. It could be, like, genetic, just in the DNA of the Marvel company. I don't know. But I'm telling you, man, there's no one person who's at fault for Amazing Spider-Man's failure. It is a death by a thousand cuts, like you said. It is and it's been a slow decline because people complained endlessly, myself included, during Beyond when it was Ben Reilly. Now people are remembering how great it was. And I'm like, you were the same people who bitched and moaned about Ben Reilly being Spider-Man at that time. Like,
hey, I was boosting Beyond at the moment because I'm like, hey, at least this is different. At least they're letting Peter fucking sleep for a minute.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And then, like, and at least he still has Mary Jane as a girlfriend. Like, there's something there. I mean, it was this book. I think I don't know if it's like, it has been bad for so long that no one knows how to right the ship. It's
the frog in the boiling water.
I mean, I've been there before. I was there. They published a single issue called 1001 Ways or 101 Ways to End the Clone Saga. I've been there when Marvel didn't know how to fix Spider-Man. When Spider-Man went
they
from
joked that they didn't know.
They did. They thought it was hilarious. Like they made a person draw their own internal meetings. They made them draw themselves in the book. People complain about inserts today. Are you kidding me? Right? Are you kidding me? Stan inserted himself in those books all the time. He was a character in the Marvel universe. But this is just like, I know that, like, I think people are too close to it, and I think there is, like, a kind of, like, corporate cloud over it that, like, I am told, you know, every time I talk about it with different creators, you know, a crossover will never happen, like that, this, that, and the other thing can't happen. That it's like, oh, now that, like, you know, it was hard enough to do it when we were able to achieve it, but now that Marvel's owned by Disney and DC is owned by such and such, or now that Marvel's owned by Disney, we can't do this, that, and the other thing. And yet, right? And yet, like, what would it take, right? And it's like, no one is willing to take the thought exercise to actually explore whether something is possible. And I'm not talking about intercompany crossovers anymore. I'm just talking about, like, making decisions or making big changes or just righting the ship, just being able to take the reins. Because I think there is a, like, desperate search / desire for leadership at both Marvel and DC. Where there needs to be leadership, and there needs to be, like, because it can't just be I'm Bill Jemas, I'm in charge, and so we're gonna do this, and this. Like, it can't just be I'm like a dictator. It needs to be that there's a comprehensive
I'm Jim Shooter with my iron fist.
I mean, like, here's the frustrating thing, right? Like, you know, I feel like there are a lot of people who used to work for Marvel who, if they brought back Jim Shooter, they would have quit immediately. But
Yeah.
today, people who work at Marvel today don't even know who the hell that is. And I genuinely
Right.
do feel like someone like Jim Shooter, or maybe Jim Shooter, could fix it. But I'm very wary of like old guard coming back or older
Absolutely.
people coming in during this very different era of comics. Like,
You're
I
just gonna
genuinely
create a
don't.
culture clash, and you don't want that.
Well, a culture clash and like just a fundamental lack of availability to the tools. Like, they're just not going to know those tools are available. You know, it's like,
Mhm.
you know, Jim Shooter be like, okay, here's what we're going to do, and he'd be like, we're going to call, I blow off my Rolodex and I'll call up all these media companies, and it's like those companies
Dead,
A, don't exist,
dead.
or B, like, right, dead, out of business, changed. You know, it's just, it wouldn't work the
Ooh,
same way.
can't call him no more.
Right, exactly, or canceled or some nonsense. But like, it's just like there's no good system. But like, so, but I think what's most important, the solution at the end of the day for Spider-Man and for Marvel and DC is, and it's the solution to everything, education. It's about knowing your
Absolutely.
business. It's about knowing what came before, knowing your history, learning it, understanding it, but also being open to the present slash future. Not being so progressive that we're going to throw everything away and completely reboot the zeitgeist, but also not being so beholden to the old that we're going to just keep
Mhm.
retreading or treading water until we all drown. There needs to be some kind of a good
Naturally.
moderation between understanding what came before and being able to predict what's happening in the future, or at the very least,
Mhm.
predicting what people want now. Just gauging your audience, and
Absolutely.
it needs to
And
come
the
from leadership.
Totally. And the weirdest thing about that Spider-Man book too is like I probably would have dumped it a long time ago if it wasn't so fascinating in its badness, like the
Yeah,
fact that they keep sidelining Spider-Man to where he's like a
yeah,
B and C player in his own book. That's truly
absolutely.
fascinating. I'm like, "Oh man, how are they going to sideline him
It
this
could,
week?" I can't.
you know, you might be hitting on something. Maybe it's that like when I do anything with Spider-Man, like when I do anything with Peter Parker, I get
Mhm.
so many notes. But if I
Yes.
do something with like Randy Robertson, nobody seems to care.
And you
So
know,
like,
or with Norman Osborn. That's why Norman
right,
Osborn's had a great run. It's why Beetle and Randy are actually having a really good run in Gang War. To where I'm like, oh my god, am I actually reading this just for Janice and Randy? Holy shit! Is that
right,
how far Spider-Man has gone? I'm not even reading Spider-Man for Spider-Man anymore.
yeah. Well, and for me, like the reason why I can easily drop Spider-Man is because I've been doing it periodically throughout my life. It's so easy to just go,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, well, I'll just wait. Yeah, he'll get better, or he won't, and I'll have old stories to read." But like, you know, you win Marvel, you've broken me. I don't care anymore. Like, I just, it's so easy to just go like, "Oh, you know, like it's like an old relationship where it's like it's not working out. It's like, oh, well, then I'm breaking up with you. What? You're
The
breaking up?
numbers
Well, aren't you gonna fight for me? Why would I? Why bother?
the numbers stay consistently good on my channel too, which is the other thing. So even though we can call this the worst era ever, the numbers don't reflect that.
The books are selling like crazy. The problem is
Yeah.
Amazing Spider-Man still sells just fine. So
Mhm.
someone's reading it. I mean, like, and by someone I mean the majority.
Which makes
Regular,
me laugh
the
when
sane
we get all these
people.
yeah. Oh yeah, which makes me
Yeah,
laugh when all these conspiracy theorists come in and be like, they're purposely ruining Peter as a character so they can replace him as Miles. It's all part of the Illuminati. Which I'm like, okay. A, shut up. B, no, look at the numbers.
yeah. No, people just are reading it, and you know, I can imagine, and like that's refreshing in its own way because it means
Mhm.
that like the majority of readers aren't meta reading it. They're not like, well, what
Yeah.
is this supposed to mean, or like, why are they saying this about the industry, or why are they saying this about writing? Like, no.
Mhm.
They're like, oh man, Pete's in a pickle today. I mean,
Yeah, really.
and it seems kind of silly and dumb, but like, isn't it all? And then they put it in
Yeah.
their book, and then
Yeah.
they give it to their kid and they move on. You're like, that's
Yeah.
it. Like, it's just, I don't know. I
Yeah.
genuinely don't know like what, but I do know like everything. It isn't it's his fault. It's not
Mhm.
one person. It's not one problem. And I can't even say like, oh, let's just say Amazing Spider-Man is like the book of 2023 because it represents all these problems. Because the Spider-Man is never good. Like Spider-Man hasn't been good for a long time. It's very
Mm.
inconsistently a good series. It hasn't been good, and it's always been inconsistent in like how it portrays the character and how it like
Yeah.
upsets the apple cart. Like it's not worth it because like every year you could get some YouTuber trying to get fat off of how bad Spider-Man is. It's just there's nothing you could do about that.
And hindsight is 2020, and nostalgia catches up with itself. I never thought I would see the day when people are like, they need to get Dan Slott back on this book, and it was better in the I see that all the time. People are like, it was better in the Dan Slott era, or I miss Nick Spencer because the book was more interesting. And I'm like, yep, funny how times change, huh?
Insane. I do believe though that Slott was given a Spider-Man book for 2 reasons. The first of which was they didn't believe in Zeb enough to trust that he could sell Spider-Man consistently. I've been proven wrong on that, because Spider-Man sells #1 every month from Marvel, and they didn't need Dan Slott. Number 2, to keep Slott from leaving.
Also that.
Not like it would really matter, by the way. It's not like if Dan Slott was like announced to take over like a Robin book or something, it would do 100,000 units.
Yeah, that Superior was pretty good. We've only got like 2 issues of it, but it's pretty fun.
It's fine. It's very much like, oh, okay, that's what I come to expect from a Dan Slott book. It's like, okay, yeah, great.
Did you see my new Spider Boy? I really want everyone to see.
Yes, I hate him.
Spider Boy.
Yes, I hate him. I hate him, and he's so obvious. Like, it's very. I
just think he's neat.
I know you do. Yeah, I know. I know you are very resentful that you didn't come up with Miles. I know. I know.
I tried to with Alpha, and you all hated him. I'm trying again.
He did that without. Alpha was deliberate. He said Alpha was gonna. He said he deliberately created Alpha to be like a loser and to fail. Like, he did not think Alpha was gonna be a big deal. He knew Alpha was gonna be reviled. He wrote him deliberately to be unlikable. He did not think Alpha was going to be a success. I will hang my hat on that. What is your #1 book? What is your book of the year? What is your book that represents 2000?
Probably Miles, If You Twist My Arm, because it's a book that managed to stay consistently good, even when being forced to be involved in crappy tie-ins to crappy events, of which there were so many this year. Night Terrors, Lazarus Planet, just so many where I'm like, make it stop. Dark Web.
Yeah. I don't know what I could call the book of the year or like a representative,
hard,
but I will say, I could say Predator versus Wolverine is kind of like my like representation of the book of the year, if only because it's like, it almost is the thing you want. It's like, it's this thing that's like, we finally listened to you. Like 2023 was a year where it was like, there was nothing remarkable and there was nothing outstanding, but they did put out books that you read, and the books that you read were pretty good. Like Predator versus Wolverine is one of those things where it's like, I've been waiting forever for that. I pitched it in a show. I was like, I need to have this. And then they were like, here you go, but Greg Land's going to draw half of it. Like, just a little like, oh, by the way, like, here's a movie about your life, but it stars, Pauly Shore as you.
Damn it.
It's like, it's cool there's a movie about me, but did you do that on purpose, like to make me look like an asshole? And it's like, kind of, right? And it's like that's what it feels like for me. Like, sometimes like books are just like, here's a book and it's almost the thing you've always wanted, but they have to change it. They got to do something to it. But 2023 was very like, it was an unremarkable year.
Sure was. And again, like I said, I struggled to put together a whole list of 10.
Yeah, it was tough. They were good, but it doesn't mean the industry's dying. It doesn't mean that the industry sucks. It doesn't mean that they made better books 35, 45 years ago.
Yeah.
It means that they ain't all going to be winners.
Yeah.
That's all.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's
Crimson
just true in art and in life.
Exactly. Crimson Echidna, Forgetting About Peter, really sums up amazing 2023. I agree.
Yeah.
Eduardo Perez Rubio. Hell, Zeb wrote Avenging Spider-Man. I forgot about that. And I liked that series.
That's pretty good.
Pectus, Murder World's so good that I rooted for a random Hydro henchwoman. Best worst movie of 2023. Worst Mario and Little Mermaid. Best Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Godzilla -1. I don't know. I don't want to talk about movies. But yeah, but I will say thank you to our super chatters for sponsoring today's show. You did support us in a big bad way. Thank you so much for that. Thank you to Joel for being the co-host for today. We do appreciate you being here, my friend. Also, if you want more Joel, go to youtube.com/CapeJoel. All the links are in the description. And of course, if you want more, you can like this video, subscribe to our channel, and stick around for more. 2023 was, like I said, a little bit of an unremarkable year for good stuff came out. But I think there's promise for 2024, and I hope that it is emblematic of our output, that we will be that it only be better and clearer skies for us in 2024. Thank you all for being here. We'll see you guys next time with an all-new episode. I am Sal. That's Joel, and we'll
Joel.
see you next time. So long, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.